All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you are new here. Thank you guys so much for joining me today and waiting patiently for the intro to finish up. Fred Vance says, MBG, put the protein shake down. Let's get the rants. Let's get the rants a-rolling. It's funny you should say that because there isn't actually a protein shake in here. This is a protein shaker cup, although I just don't have the lid. I found it recently. The sound is low. I can turn it up a little bit. How about that? Does that... Oh, you know... Hold on. I know what it is. How about now? Is it better? I actually... Let me know if it's too loud now. I had the volume turned down, and I didn't realize it. So hopefully this fixes it. Fred, you saying you have a rant mug at home somewhere? That's awesome. Now it's too loud. All right, how about now? How about now? This should be hopefully perfect. Not too loud. Not too low. Always trying to make sure I have the best audio I can get. All right. Well, yeah, thank you guys for joining me today. And I'm not drinking a protein shake in this shaker cup. I'm actually drinking some kind of electrolyte solution. I had my protein shake earlier when I finished my workout. I've been on a very serious workout regimen, making sure I'm working out every day, 6 days a week, no breaks, being careful not to overtrain. I'm not going like crazy, but just staying as consistent as I possibly can. So I'm really planning to stick with that for some time to come. Yep, home gym, home workout. Did Boss work out too? He looks tired. No. Boss did the... Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Boss does at night when I'm sleeping, you know? He's... Who knows? He could be going downstairs and getting some reps in for all I know. But yeah, it's the beginning of September. Summer is slowly but surely coming to an end. And I'm actually glad because fall is my favorite season of the year. The weather's starting to change. It's quite nice waking up early in the morning and it's cool outside. It's not cold, it's just very cool. And actually get to open the windows and enjoy that fresh morning air. You know, I'm the same way, Mini Tom. I can't stand summer sometimes. There are times where I do enjoy it, but it really starts to wear on me. And I'm like, you know, I'm definitely more than ready for fall. JMR straight up says summer sucks. The unknown. Yeah, I did see that. I did see that. Silent Spartan says, got to get that juicy tan. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm pretty pale overall. I mean, I don't know how I look on the camera. Yeah, I think you could tell I'm pretty pale. When I was younger, though, when I would go outside during the summer or go to the beach, I would tan like instantly. Although I got sunburn one too many times, like bad sunburn. I never got like sun poisoning, but the sunburn situation definitely was not good growing up. I should have been smarter. And yeah, I mean, I was a kid, you know, but it's not like my parents didn't tell me. I just didn't listen. I was pretty defiant that way, to my detriment many times. Such is life. Toolman55 says, got my Astrobot pre-ordered. Come on Friday. Yeah, I just got the notification from Amazon that my Astrobot physical copy shipped. Very excited for it, man. Can't wait. Really looking forward to it. Am I getting Warhammer? I do plan to get Warhammer. I'm not going to get it right at launch, but I probably will get it in the coming weeks. At least I want to. That game looks amazing. I do have a couple of super chats here. We have Cypherpunk. He comes in and says, of course, it'll be marketed on PlayStation. People who think otherwise are just stupid. Launch on console. PlayStation is leading the console. Not exactly rocket science. So Cypherpunk is referring to one of the main topics of discussion that we're going to go over today, which is a new rumor that comes from a very interesting source that some of you may be familiar with, that claims Sony has in fact scored the marketing rights to Grand Theft Auto 6, and it's going to be very heavily marketed alongside the PlayStation 5 Pro. Cypherpunk, I have to agree. I do think that this is fairly obvious, but it is interesting to be getting a rumor where I don't know how trustworthy the source is, but, you know, it could potentially signal that we are going to be getting trailer 2 for GTA 6 in the not too distant future. And knowing that Sony is getting ready to reveal the PS5 Pro, who knows, right? We also have Waylark with the super chat. He says, Games Workshop Group, the Warhammer owners, have a market cap of $4.46 billion. Sony could have gone for them instead of Bungie and have so much content. 40K is huge. It is interesting to think about that. I actually had no idea they were worth that much. That's news to me. But, I mean, when I look at something like Warhammer Space Marine 2, there does seem to, like, I don't know what the sales expectation is of that, but what I do know is people who are paying attention, and it does seem like it's getting a fair bit of attention, they're very impressed. And I think the reviews just came out for it. I saw it was sitting at an 86. An 86 out of, I think, based off of only right now 5 reviews, but it's trending in the right direction. So, yeah, that would have been an interesting turn of events, Waylark, if that's what Sony decided to do instead of Bungie. The Bungie acquisition, man, not good. Fred, you're saying MBG, just an update. We have a ratification meeting this Sunday over whether we are accepting the contract or striking. Wow. Sounds pretty intense, Fred. Sounds a bit nerve-wracking. I hope it goes well. I hope it goes in your favor. I wish you all the best, man. We also have Wabu Dude saying, MBG, are you a Halloween or Christmas guy? I do like both quite a bit. And I like that they're very different from one another. Halloween has a very unique energy, just as Christmas has a very unique energy. I do really enjoy both, but if I had to choose which one I actually prefer, I'm going to go with Halloween. I think Halloween is my favorite. I think October is my favorite month of the year, and I think Halloween is my favorite holiday. As I get older, I tend to enjoy it even more. I love watching horror movies. I love every October just kind of planning some kind of horror movie marathon with Mrs. MBG. We're watching horror movies all throughout the year, but we ramp it up quite a bit when Halloween rolls around. I like to, decorate a little bit. I will say I say Halloween is my favorite holiday, but I am a bit of a party pooper in a way that I don't really dress up for Halloween. Like, I have to be honest, it's been a while since I've actually, dressed up for Halloween. But I don't know. It's just one of those things where I just enjoy the time. I enjoy when everybody's putting out their decorations. I enjoy the weather. I enjoy just everything about it. So I'd say, but I really do like Christmas as well. Christmas is great too. Boring husband alert. Maybe, yeah. I don't know. I was thinking about changing that this Halloween, though. I was thinking about dressing up this Halloween. I'm not entirely sure yet. I used to dress up for Halloween all the time, but William, yeah, I have your link up here now. I actually did miss that. Maybe we'll talk about that. Irfan, you're saying predict a number for Astrobot's Metacritic? I'm going to say 87. I think Astrobot's going to hit an 87 on Metacritic. We have Marcus, a member for 15 months, Says, did you see this? Sony leadership reckons that the company doesn't have enough original IP. I did. That is one of the topics we're going to be talking about. Sony's Hiroki Totoki recently went on record basically saying, yeah, he thinks the company as a whole, he's not just talking about PlayStation, but PlayStation is one of the biggest parts of the company, does not have enough original IP. And they seemingly are making a massive investment in trying to kickstart a bunch of new IP. And I wonder if this is kind of a sign of things to come. You know, we've been talking about these studios underneath PlayStation studios that have been working on new IP for quite some time, and we're waiting to hear from. So we will be talking about that at length, Marcus. We have Rashab, a member for 10 months. He says, MBG, do you think KOTOR Remake could be launching title for the PS5 Pro? We haven't heard anything regarding that game for some time. No, I don't. I think KOTOR Remake is dead. I think that was a project that Sony was excited to get on board with, and a lot of people were obviously hyped for it, but we've only heard bad things about KOTOR Remake in terms of its development cycle. It was in some type of development hell, and the latest thing, or the last thing I should say we heard, is basically that the game is just kind of on ice, or just basically not really making progress. So as for it being a PS5 Pro release, absolutely not. I actually, at this point, wonder if it's ever going to release. Yeah, it could just end up being vaporware, unfortunately. Although, it's a pretty big property, so I could see eventually something happening with it, but not anytime soon. And Michael Lynch with the $2 super chat says, you and Mrs. MBG, Mario and Peach. As crazy as it sounds, man, maybe it doesn't sound crazy, actually. I don't know why I say it like that. I guess it sounds crazy to me because it's just, again, I don't usually dress up for Halloween. She wanted to do, like, Wolverine and Lady Deadpool, and I don't know if we're going to do that. I mean, I'd have to go out of my way to make that happen, considering I definitely don't have the Wolverine hair, but that would be interesting. But I think my son, he's really into Bluey right now, so he was kind of asking us, I don't know, we were kind of like leaving it up to him. He was asking us to dress up as like the Bluey family. And I'm like, okay, yeah, like I guess I could do that. I don't know if I would have like fully dress up as the dad from that show, but maybe like a hoodie or something. I know that they make stuff like that. We'll see. And we have Digital Dude 25 coming in, member for 11 months. Says, imagine if GTA 6 skips the Xbox because of the Series S. The Xbox dudes would need to be out on S watch, is what I will say, so I don't get in trouble with YouTube. Yeah, I think that is kind of an elephant in the room right now, where there seems to be more and more animosity building towards the Xbox Series S, and some developers are just straight up getting comfortable with talking about how annoying and frustrating it is to optimize for. I have no doubt that Rockstar is going to have a difficult time, but I've said this before and I will say it again. I'm not anticipating that that's what's going to happen. I think that Rockstar is an extremely talented development team, possibly the most talented in the world. I think they could probably make it work. You know, they could probably work some kind of magic on their end and figure it out. But yeah, that would be devastating for the Xbox brand if that were to happen. Fred, you're saying my oldest left Bluey for monster trucks and my youngest is hooked on Bluey now. Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a natural transition. Bluey, next up monster trucks, you know? What the F is Bluey? It's a kid's show. I think it's an Australian kid's show. It's really wholesome. It's a nice show. I think it's a good one. But guys, let me give you a quick topic rundown and let you know how you can support the channel, and then we will dive into these topics. The first topic we're discussing is this new rumor about GTA 6 marketing and apparently how Sony has in fact secured it. We're going to discuss that at length. We're talking about how apparently Sony announced that they want more new IP, and this does include PlayStation. We're going to discuss that. I did come across this as well. William made me aware. Apparently, there's an update on the PlayStation preservation team. that I want to go over. And we're also going to be talking about fair games, because during all the commotion yesterday with the announcement that Concord is being shut down and refunded, apparently there was a rumor that came out that internally Sony seems to be very happy with fair games, and it seems to be going over well with playtesters. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're also going to talk about an update regarding the Black Myth Wukong. Maybe secret, maybe it's not secret, who knows, exclusivity for PlayStation, the deal. Microsoft has actually issued another statement where they are basically tripling down on making it known that Sony struck some type of deal with the developers of Black Myth Wukong. And this is just something where I think everybody is kind of going back and forth with it. But we'll go over that, and I'll just give you an update on what's going on. And if we have time, I do have a bonus topic where we will talk about the Switch 2 and how apparently the reveal for the Switch 2 is right around the corner and happening sooner than we might think. So look forward to all these topics today. Before we dive into it, guys, I do want to first off, just thank everybody again for watching. We have over 340 people here, which is great to see. If you could do me a favor, hit the like button to help the stream out. Not only does it help with YouTube's algorithm, but it lets me know you enjoy the content. I also want to let you know a couple of ways you can support the channel, the content, and the community directly. Number one, become a channel member. Becoming a channel member, you gain access to some exclusive perks, but most importantly, it supports me and the community directly, and it allows me to create this content and run the channel in the way that I do. If you're already a channel member, the second way you can help out is by gifting memberships. Gifting memberships is a big thing we do here. A lot of community members very much grateful for those memberships, and they help me tremendously. We have a goal of 25. If we can hit that goal, we will, feed who here. And also consider maybe donating a super chat. That's the third way. You can ask a question, give an opinion, make a statement, anything in between. That helps a lot as well. There's a fourth bonus way. There's a direct donation link at the top of the chat, and you can leave a message just like you would a super chat, and 100% of what you donate goes directly towards the content creator. So there are essentially 4 opportunities for you to support what I do here directly if it's within your means and if it's something that you wish to do. And so just a big thank you to everybody who makes this possible. It's awesome to be able to do this. So good stuff there. But with that out of the way, I do have a super chat here from Blake Wilson who says, "Hey, MBG, I'm thinking Rockstar is waiting for the PS5 Pro to be revealed first. So that way it will say, quote, running on PS5 Pro, end quote, during the second trailer. What better way to promote the Pro?" It's an interesting theory, Blake. And that actually allows me to segue very nicely into this topic, because I think you may be onto something. This is being reported by Game Rant. The title of their article says, "Rumor, Sony may have secured GTA 6 marketing rights." A new report suggests that Sony has secured exclusive rights to market Grand Theft Auto 6 alongside the PS5 and the upcoming PS5 Pro. Sony's relationship with Rockstar Games dates all the way back to the PlayStation 2 days, so it wouldn't be too surprising if the pair of gaming juggernauts joined forces to market the long-awaited GTA 6. Very few gaming franchises have penetrated the general consumer mind, it's a hell of a way to write that, share as massively as GTA has, with the series' lifetime sales having surpassed 410 million units as of September 2023. The next entry in the franchise, GTA 6, is set to add to that number substantially thanks to the generational level of hype behind it. Although GTA 6 is slated for release in fall 2025, fans have been wondering when Rockstar plans to show off more of the sandbox crime game. Some have even taken it upon themselves to try and decipher clues that could allude to when Rockstar speaks about GTA 6 again, but to no avail so far. It remains to be seen when GTA 6's next trailer will debut, but speculation around the game continues to proliferate, with one very recent rumor indicating that Sony could have struck a deal with Rockstar for exclusive marketing rights to the game. During the latest episode of the XNC podcast, industry insider Mag claimed that Sony has, quote, locked down, end quote, a marketing agreement for GTA 6, which will allow the company to advertise the game alongside, quote, PS5 and PS5 Pro only, end quote. The insider assured us that the deal will not affect GTA 6's availability on the Xbox Series X and S, but will diminish its, quote, marketing exposure, end quote, on the Microsoft platform. MAG added that this exclusive marketing arrangement will be disclosed when Trailer 2 for GTA 6 releases, and it will supposedly feature the PlayStation logo. He also reckons GTA 6's second trailer will air at the 2024 Game Awards this December, but isn't too sure of this. Interestingly, MAG's report was further corroborated by Red Gaming Tech in a recent tweet, who alleged that Sony will use GTA 6 for, quote, heavy marketing, end quote, of the PS5 Pro. However, they do advise taking this information with a pinch of salt until it's officially confirmed. So this is interesting for a few reasons here. First off, it's interesting that this rumor is actually stemming from an Xbox-centric podcast, which is fascinating. And it does lead me to believe that maybe there is something to this, because I feel like where this is coming from, it's not something that that would necessarily get their audience excited, but actually maybe feel, a little bit like, oh, okay. But this kind of speaks to what Blake just said here, where he's thinking that maybe Rockstar is waiting for the PS5 Pro to be revealed, so that way the next trailer they show, Trailer 2, it will be able to say running on PS5 Pro, and it's just kind of this thing where they can show the best console version of the game in the second trailer, which will be greatly improved because, by that point, they'll have like a whole year of extra polish on top of it. But it will be on the PS5 Pro, which will obviously massively benefit Sony, where Sony, as this article points out, Sony has had a long-standing relationship with Rockstar Games for many years, dating all the way back to the PS2 with GTA 3. And Rockstar has seemingly, or I should say Take-Two Interactive, the parent company of Rockstar, has seemingly been very happy and satisfied with their continued partnership with PlayStation. And so because of this, it just makes the most sense that Sony would once again have the marketing rights to something like GTA 6. But it makes even more sense when you consider that the PS5 Pro is right around the corner, and GTA 6, as of right now, is not set to release on PC. Now, of course, we know GTA 6 will eventually release on PC. There is no ETA on that, though. It could release 1 year later on PC. It could release 4 years later on PC. It's, who knows, right? Rockstar may keep you waiting. They've done that before. There's a decent chance they'll do it again because they know that people will double and triple dip for a game like GTA 6. So when you consider all of this, yeah, I do think Sony is willing to pay quite a bit of money to lock down the marketing rights for GTA 6. And I do think that Rockstar and Take-Two Interactive are absolutely okay taking that money and slapping the PlayStation logo on the next GTA 6 trailer, or, just make it known it's running on the PS5 or the PS5 Pro because, well, let's face it, this is where this game is going to sell. The game will sell well on the Xbox consoles, and I have seen people mention maybe something like the Series S will explode sales-wise because GTA 6 will be available on it. But I'm thinking it's going to help Microsoft. It's going to sell Xbox consoles, absolutely. But I think it's going to help Sony even more. I think that Rockstar, I keep saying Rockstar, but Take-Two Interactive, they're looking at the current situation. They see the sales trajectory of the Xbox consoles. They see that the Xbox console has completely stagnated. Meanwhile, the PS5 is still selling briskly. It is slowing down, but it's still selling very well. And it's on a path to ultimately sell probably over 100 million units at some point. So if you're Take-Two Interactive, you see this, you're absolutely going to want to talk to Sony and see like, yeah, we're only releasing this game on 3 consoles, the PS5, the Xbox Series S, and the Series X. So you guys are the sales leader by quite some margin. We really want to market this game alongside your console. It just, it's basic logic. It's right there. And I think at this point, everybody is kind of anticipating that this is what's going to happen. But I guess it just comes down to the timing, right? Like, is Rockstar waiting for the PS5 Pro to be revealed? Is this some type of an agreement between Rockstar and Sony? I think it's very possible. But we also have to acknowledge that GTA 6 is going to do massive things for the PlayStation console. It's going to do big things for the Xbox console, as I mentioned. But if Sony did in fact secure the marketing rights for this game, we are going to see an explosion of PlayStation consoles that honestly will probably make it so Sony doesn't really have to worry about much for the remainder of this generation. Not to say that they won't do anything or that they will just sit back and coast, but they certainly won't have to worry. People are going to upgrade to the PS5 if they haven't already for GTA 6. People are going to go out in droves and buy PS5 and PS5 Pro consoles for GTA 6. This is going to be the biggest game ever released in the history of gaming. And I think it's going to do very big things for the industry as a whole, but certainly for the PlayStation console. Boss, don't make me have to escort you out of here. And we have Doolin Jones coming out with a generous super chat. Thank you so much for that, Doolin. You're saying, I've been hearing from people I know, handheld's PlayStation Portal is more successful than Sony thought. A true, proper PlayStation Vita successor is on the way. VR, PSVR 2 recently had record-breaking sales. PSVR 3 is happening too. I can't effing wait. That's interesting, Doolin. I do believe that we are going to see a proper successor to the PlayStation Vita. However, I think it's going to, like I said, be very different from the Vita in the sense that it's not going to have dedicated exclusive games made for just that device and that device alone. I think it's going to be a device that you can play, like I said, PS4 and PS5 games on. And assuming this device releases later down the line, maybe sometime after the PlayStation 6 releases, maybe you can continue to stream PlayStation 6 games on it as well. I do think that is in the pipeline. It just makes the most sense. I think Sony would be crazy to not make that happen. As for VR2, though, this is interesting. You're saying PlayStation VR2 recently had record-breaking sales, and you're saying PSVR 3 is happening. I'm not so sure about that one, Doolin. I am not convinced. I do believe that VR2 saw record-breaking sales recently, at least for PlayStation VR, because it had $200 wiped off the price tag, and it basically sold out. But I have to see what Sony plans to say about PlayStation VR 2 in some upcoming stated plays and or showcases in order to get a better read on where they stand with this headset, because I'm not entirely convinced that they're going to abandon it necessarily, but I'm also not entirely convinced that they're going to stick with it and continue to support it heavily and invest in a PSVR 3. I think it's more likely that they're going to choose one over the other, as in they're going to choose to invest in a handheld over a new VR headset. That's my assumption anyway. But you could be right, Doolin. Either way, it's good to see that the PlayStation Portal has exceeded expectations, and at least as of right now, PSVR 2 is in the hands of more players. But I did want to ask you guys hold on 1 second. I'm just gonna put him out. I'm going to let him go for just a little bit while we talk. Listen, if we start getting some memberships rolling in, if we get a member train going, I'll bring him right back in. But he's already starting early here. He almost just knocked my drink over. He's been getting very rambunctious these days. But if we get some memberships, guys, and we get close to that 25 goal, like I said, I will absolutely bring him back. But talking about GTA 6 and Sony marketing it. I'm sorry about that, Titus. I know. Don't worry. He'll come back. He'll come back. I think that it's understandable why people right now are not necessarily too fixated on GTA 6 and what it's going to do for not only the PlayStation brand, but gaming overall, because, well, I mean, we need to see more of it, right? We don't know when we're going to get the second trailer. We know the game is supposed to be coming out fall 2025, but a lot of people are anticipating it's going to get delayed. But as I said earlier, I do think that GTA 6, marketing rights or not, GTA 6 is going to ensure this generation closes very, very strong for Sony. I need people to understand that, because there is a lot of fear-mongering happening right now, and there has been for, I'd say, a good year and a half or so when it comes to the console space. And the reason for this, I do firmly believe, is because of what's happening to Microsoft, but also some of the not so great things that are happening with Sony. Granted, as I mentioned, Sony is still doing fine in the console space. They're still selling a lot of PS5s, and it's slowing down a little bit, but it's not showing any signs of like falling off a cliff. Certainly nothing like that. But on the Xbox side of things, their console sales are, I mean, I don't know any other way to put it, but their console sales have just fallen off a cliff. Like, they really have come to like a dead halt, and it's not improving. And so I think because of that, it's created this kind of discourse and this conversation across the internet that calls into question, the future of the console market. But I think what we're going to ultimately see is the PS5 Pro is going to be revealed. We're going to see more of GTA 6. We're going to know that the PS5 Pro will be the best place to play GTA 6. And we're going to see the Switch 2. Now, the Switch 2 is going to miss out on GTA 6, of course, but the Switch 2 is still going to be a big deal in the console space. And so I think when you combine these things together, it will paint a much clearer picture. And I think that is, the console market as a whole is fine. And Microsoft is probably going to continue to struggle until maybe they can kickstart next generation, if that's what they want to choose to do. But more importantly, at least for people who are concerned about PlayStation, this generation is going to end very strong. I can't sit here and promise you that you're going to get every single game reveal and announcement from every single PlayStation studio that you were hoping for. But what I can tell you is you are going to get the Pro. You are going to get GTA 6. You are going to get a myriad of, third-party games that are finally going to be built from the ground up for the PS5 and the PS5 Pro, and no more cross-gen. And you are going to get quite a few bigger first-party titles from Sony, like Death Stranding 2, Wolverine, presumably Ghost of Tsushima 2, and a couple of others that haven't been announced yet. And so, in my opinion, when you look at all these things together, I think it's a winning combination for the second half of the PS5 life cycle. And I think it's certainly going to be a winning combination for Rockstar when they drop GTA 6 finally as well. Okay, you're saying with a $2 super chat here, $199 Series S for GTA 6. Pro will always be a niche, guess you're saying product. I'm not so sure, man, because you do have to keep in mind that here's what I think. I think what you're saying about a $200 Series S in order to move units alongside GTA 6, I think that's very possible. I do. I could see Microsoft deciding they want to get very aggressive in this moment to really try to pick up the pace and just sell as many units as they can. But I do want to say that if Microsoft were to do that, Sony would absolutely get aggressive as well. If Sony felt any pressure whatsoever from Microsoft in this way, Sony would drop the price of the PS5. It would be temporary. It wouldn't be, I don't think it would be like a permanent price drop. I think it would be temporary. But I do think I think the PS5 Pro will sell modestly, but I don't think GTA 6 is going to make the Pro fly off the shelf. I think the Pro is going to see a modest boost, knowing that GTA 6, this is the best version of it that you can get on this console, right? But what I do think is GTA 6 is going to have a profound impact on the base model PS5. I think Sony's going to continue to sell the base model PS5 at $500, but I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if by the time GTA 6 releases fall 2025, that's when Sony says slash the price of the base PS5 to $399. Because you're right, a $199 Series S for GTA 6 sounds great, but a $399 PS5 for GTA 6 may sound a lot better when people maybe realize, and this is an assumption on my part, but I think it's a safe assumption, and I think people understand where this assumption comes from. A $399 PS5, especially if it's bundled with GTA 6, which I don't think it'll be bundled, but for GTA 6 may be much more enticing. That extra $200 may be much more enticing if the Series S version is extremely compromised. Now, if the Series S version is extremely optimized and it runs great, it's like one of the best running games on the Series S, Rockstar was able to pull that off, then I could see it being kind of the opposite, where people are like, whoa, maybe this is the console I should buy to play GTA 6 on. But I think the general expectation is the Series S is going to struggle with GTA 6. We've seen it struggle on games that are doing a lot less than GTA 6. So I think it really does come down to not just the marketing, like Sony having the marketing rights, but also ultimately how this game is going to perform on these consoles. I do think that. I do think it comes down to that. I think the price of these consoles is very important. Obviously, I don't want to make it sound like, you know, a $200 difference or even a $100 difference doesn't matter. It absolutely does matter. But I think people really do want to know, how does this game run? I'm not saying they're necessarily asking about 60 frames per second, but I do think that GTA 6 is one of those games that, I guess what I mean to say is people will do at least a little bit of research for it. You know, it's going to be the most popular game of all time. Before I read some of these chats here, guys, we have over 450 people here watching and hanging out. Thank you guys so much for the continued support here. Do me a favor, hit that like button. You guys are doing great. We're already over 115 likes. If you want to help just with YouTube's algorithm and let me know that you enjoy the content, take a second, hit that like button. We have Lone Wolf Gamer, a member for 14 months, who says, MBG, question for you. Buy the PS5 Pro when it releases or wait for the eventual GTA 6 Pro bundle? I'm going to say buy it when it releases, because this GTA 6 Pro bundle, I do not believe you're going to get a free copy of GTA 6. I think when we talk about these bundles, people talk about them under the impression that, oh yeah, if there's a GTA 6 bundle, I'm going to get GTA 6 for free, or Sony's going to be the one to pay for it. That's not going to happen this time around. I don't recall what happened with the PS4. I know there was a GTA 5 PS4 bundle and a PS4 Pro bundle, I believe. Somebody can correct me on that. Maybe not. Maybe there was just a regular PS4 bundle. I don't remember if you had to pay for GTA 5 for that bundle with the PS4. But what I do know is this is a different Sony. You know, this is a different generation. You're not going to get a free copy of GTA 6. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you, Lone Wolf Gamer, is that if you choose to wait to buy the PS5 Pro with GTA 6, you're going to be paying the same amount of money either way. The only thing I will say, but this is highly unlikely, is it is possible, just like I said, that Sony might drop the price of the base PS5 when GTA 6 releases. It is possible they could decide to drop the price of the Pro when GTA 6 releases. But again, the Pro by that point will only be a year old, so it's very unlikely. Sorry, I have to check something here. But it's a good question, Lone Wolf Gamer. And we have a, I believe, direct donation here. Let me go check it out. We have a dual direct donation from Moonshot. Thank you for that, buddy. And you're saying, to be honest, it's not good for us consumers that Sony effortlessly, gets handed big exclusives like Wukong. And if they get the marketing rights for GTA 6 and they're set for the rest of the generation, that's not good for consumers. Aside from GTA marketing, no competition is not good. PS5 reveal will be telling, or I guess you mean the PS5 Pro reveal. Yeah, I do understand where your concern comes from, Moonshot, and I think it is certainly founded. However, there is another side to it that I think we have to acknowledge, and it's that it's not like Sony is in control of some of these circumstances, right? What I mean is, like, we look at Black Myth Wukong, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but supposedly it's a game that it is a console exclusive. It's only on the PS5, and it kind of just fell into Sony's lap. Sony didn't ask for it. Sony didn't pursue it, supposedly. I have to keep saying that because we're going to cover it a little bit later. And that has happened for some games, and it continues to happen for some games. I would believe that Sony's mentality towards this is not, well, I guess we could just sit back and relax and not worry and not have to lift a finger. I don't think that's their mentality. I think their mentality is, well, look at that. We just got another console exclusive. We didn't have to do anything. Like, Microsoft just handed it to us. That's cool. Anyway, back to work. I think that's more along the lines of what we're looking at here. When I talk about GTA 6 ensuring that this generation is set, I don't mean to make it sound like Sony's not going to do anything. That's not possible, because Sony, they still have to keep a large portion of their customers happy, regardless of whether or not GTA 6 is, going to do heavy lifting for them. They need to ensure that they're keeping their customers happy. And more importantly, they need to ensure that there's constant growth, because for as much growth as something like GTA 6 will bring to the PlayStation brand when it releases on their console, yes, it's going to bring a lot of growth, and the investors and shareholders are going to be very happy about that, and the customers are going to be happy because they're buying GTA 6 and enjoying it. Sony will still sit there knowing, well, we could have even more growth if we do more. You get what I'm saying? Like, Sony is not responsible for GTA 6. GTA 6 is something that's just going to fall into their lap in terms of they had nothing to do with the development of that game. But that game is going to make them so much money. And especially if they do strike a marketing deal, it's going to make them an unbelievable amount of money. And they had nothing to do with it. That doesn't mean that there isn't a massive investment of time, money, and resource into their own projects, into their own studios, into their own endeavors to just add on top of that. There absolutely will be. I think the only thing people need to worry about with Sony, and this is, I would say, a light concern. It depends on who you ask. Some people would probably say it's their biggest concern. For me, it's not necessarily the biggest concern, but it's definitely a light concern that I'm going to be paying attention to. The biggest thing I think people have to worry about is not Sony getting lazy or complacent or not working on things and continuing to make games and just kind of like sitting back for the rest of the generation. I think it's the pricing. I think that we do have to keep in mind that the less competition Sony has from Microsoft going forward, the more enticing. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. It's not a guarantee, but the more enticing the prospect of maybe we can charge a little bit more, because, who's going to be there to stop? Well, I don't know. That's where we look at Nintendo and the Switch 2. We look at PC. It's not like Sony doesn't have any competition. It may not be like extremely direct, but it is still competition nonetheless. And Microsoft is still here. You know what I mean? Like, that's why the idea of what OK said, the idea of a $200 Series S by the time GTA 6 comes out, like, yes, Sony might have to really think about that and worry about that, because that could be a crazy good deal that people gravitate towards, but we don't know. I think Sony just has to remain balanced. They need to operate as a business where their job is to, find growth, run a profitable business, run a sustainable business. I understand that, and I fully respect that side of it. And I think most people understand that. But they need to just find that balance where it's like, chase the growth, chase the profitability, but do so reasonably and not in some, a super aggressive, ultra anti-consumer way. And it really comes down to who you ask, right? Some people believe that Sony is one of the most anti-consumer companies out there. Other people are just like, yeah, no, it's really not that bad. It's fine. Like, I'm enjoying myself just fine, So I would say this is where we have to continue to just look at the numbers and let the numbers kind of be the driving answer, if I guess, right? To let us know, like, is Sony pushing it too far? Because the reality is, if Sony gets too lazy or they get too complacent or they take things too far, their numbers will start to drop, and they will start to drop pretty quickly. And the business as a whole will begin to suffer because people are going to be going elsewhere. People will be going to PC. People will be even going to Nintendo. I don't know how many people would necessarily be going to Microsoft, but there are still other platforms out there that people can turn to. And Sony, I think, is well aware of that. So I look at the lack of competition, specifically coming from Microsoft's side, as like a one less thing to worry about type of situation for Sony, and not a, oh, well, okay, I guess we don't have to worry anymore at all. We don't really have to do anything. So hopefully that makes sense. And I see we have another direct donation. All right. Waylark, you're saying with a super chat, GTA 6 rumored to be $100. You think it'd be bundled? I did see that rumor. That would be nuts. I will say GTA 6, whether anybody wants to believe this or not, I'm here to tell you, and I'm not saying I want this. I do not want this, but I am here to tell you, GTA 6 could be priced at $100 and everybody would buy it. Like, the people who would take to the internet screaming, saying, I'm not buying that, they'll buy it. They will. Maybe not day one, but they will buy it. I don't think people understand what Rockstar has with GTA 6. And I hope they don't go that route. I hope that they don't go for, I think that they could have like a special edition or like a premium digital edition or something with a bunch of GTA Online goodies or whatever that they could charge $100 for it. I think that'll be the best selling version. But I think that they need to stick with a $70 price point, because it feels like it's just going to, like, my biggest fear with that is not, is GTA 6 going to fail if it's priced at $100? No, of course not. My biggest fear at that point is, now every other publisher is going to think that they can charge $100 for their game. That's my biggest fear. And I don't want to see that happen. I think $70 is more than enough. I know that there's like kind of a bit of an argument, how games, should be more expensive than they are. But I don't know, man. I feel like these publishers definitely find ways to extract more money from their customers, whether it be through DLC or microtransactions, So there are, or different editions of the game, more expensive editions of the game. So the alternatives exist for these publishers to make more money. But I think we just need to stay at the $70 price point. And I do believe GTA 6 will be $70. Could they sell it at $100? Yes. Do I think that's necessary? No. I think having a $100 version will be just fine. Let me ask you guys right now, if there's like 3 different versions of GTA 6. There's the base version, there's like the digital deluxe for like $100, and there's like an even more premium version where you get even more digital stuff. on like a soundtrack or whatever for like 120. Which version are you going to pre-order or buy? Like, I think there's certainly some people here right now that would, or yeah, they could do a collector's edition as well. I didn't even think about that. It's Beast Mode says I'm getting the highest one for sure, LOL. Well, that's what I mean. Like, I feel like GTA 6, it's one of those games where people are willing to drop the money on it, man. They are. Because it feels like a once in a generation thing. In this case, once every 2 generation thing. XS, you're saying you would get the normal version? Oh, yeah, they'll probably do, that's how they'll do it. Yep. Titus, I think you're right. They'll do early access. Oh, my God. What if Sony struck some kind of... I would say this would be an insane deal because I think it would be very expensive. But what if Sony struck some kind of deal where they like paid to have the early access version of GTA 6? Now, that would be crazy. So it's like 4 days exclusivity, something like that. We have a couple more direct donations here. Unholy Mayhem says he spent $100 on Warhammer. We have Moonshot. He says, so let me ask you, you think they feel more or less intent on laying out the roadmap or drumming up some hype after getting Wukong as exclusive, selling out PS5s? Again, I think it's a balance, Moonshot. I do not think we're going to see Sony come out and try desperately to win people over. Because I feel like what you're describing, like the idea of drumming up a lot of hype or this idea of having like a massive showcase, I don't think they're going to do that. But rather what I do think they're going to do is just, it's about finding that balance of, okay, maybe we don't put on a showcase where we reveal 4 new AAA single-player first-party games from some of our biggest studios, but maybe instead we show more Death Stranding 2. We start showing gameplay of Death Stranding 2 running on the PS5 Pro. Maybe we do a state of play and we reveal 1 new first-party game, maybe even 2 during that state of play. Who knows? Maybe even one of these games could be a big one. I'm not necessarily saying that's what we should expect, but I think it's just about, again, understanding that it would be detrimental to Sony to do nothing or to do the absolute bare minimum. I firmly believe that. If Sony were to do the bare minimum, it would hurt them because it would cause people to just start losing interest and not paying as much attention. I think that they could survive that. Yeah, I do. But I also think that they are in a position currently, right now, I want to underline the word currently, that they don't need, regardless of what I want them to do. You guys already know what I want Sony to do. I want Sony to come out swinging. But the reality of it is they don't need to do that. Instead, what they need to do is just come out and show a moderate amount. Here's a state of play. Here's a couple of new games. Here's some updates on games that you already know about. Here's a PS5 Pro. And here's a dedicated demonstration from Hideo Kojima on Death Stranding 2. See you at the Game Awards. And we'll talk more next year. Yeah, that's basically what Sony is going to do. And the reason for that is because that's really all they have to do. And I have to say that, like, they have to do that. Like, Sony can't not have a state of play. Sony can't not. I mean, well, I guess if they really wanted to, they could reveal the PS5 Pro in a blog post, but it's like they have to market this thing, you know? They can't not market Death Stranding 2. They can't just do nothing. I feel like if we look at Sony in July, if we look at Sony in August, let's be real right now. They basically did nothing. They basically did nothing. I'm not saying that there's something wrong with that because it's July and August. I don't think anybody was necessarily expecting that was going to be the time when Sony does big things, but they basically did nothing. And so what was the result? Well, from what I can tell, the result is, just less interest overall. They're still selling PS5s, they're still running their business, but there's just not as much talk. There's not as much interest. There's, all of that to me dropped. There's not as much engagement probably. But we are, again, that's July, that's August, that's the middle of summer. We're entering fall now. We're entering the holiday season. Sony wants the opposite. So I do understand exactly where you're coming from, Moonshot, and I don't want to see Sony get complacent to a point where they just start kind of coasting and taking this approach of, well, we don't have to do anything. If they did do that, I think that they would realize that, you're going to start to hurt because of that. I would like them to go crazy and have a big showcase, get everybody pumped and excited. That'd be awesome. But by this point, I do feel very confident that we're going to get basically something that's in the middle. We're going to get a Sony that is willing to communicate and talk and make reveals and show us stuff. But we're not going to get the Sony that we saw last generation, where they have a massive E3 2016 showing level showcase, and then they basically show us the same games for the next 4 years. I don't think we're going to get that either. I think this is a new era officially at this point, and I think we're going to see, I think we have been seeing a different type of Sony, a new Sony, but I think especially now that Jim Ryan is retired and we have new leadership, I think starting this month is when we really start to see, a new Sony. And I'm not saying it's a bad one. I just think it's going to be a more balanced one. And I do think that there will be those times when Sony does, go crazy. I just think that they're going to be further and fewer in between. We also have a direct donation from Rich Rod. He says, Rich Rod, don't you want to act like a sucker? I'm going to treat you like a sucker. MB gangsters, stand up. You butterscotch wankster. Xbox is 6 feet under. Ugly chump. Rich Rod has spoken. Everybody was waiting for that, clearly. My favorite part was the butterscotch wankster. Doesn't get any better than that, Rich. Thank you for that, man. Bloodborne remastered plus Bloodborne 2, it's over. Yeah, Sony's gonna have to break the Bloodborne glass break in case of emergency. No, see, that's the thing. Like, I've seen some people talking like that, and it's like, believe me, I get it. I get where people are coming from. Sony just literally shut down a live service game that was only out for like a week and a half. I understand, believe me. But Sony doesn't need Bloodborne right now. Like, I think that's what people just don't fully realize. It's not that Sony isn't going to do something with Bloodborne. Like, guys, Sony is going to do something with Bloodborne, but they're going to do it at a time where it makes the most sense. And you know what time would make the most sense for Bloodborne? Not now, not next year, not this generation. The time that makes the most sense for Bloodborne is, hey, we remade a From Software game at the launch of the PS5, and it was like, it's still one of our highest rated games today. And it sold a lot of, quite a few consoles. Maybe we should remake Bloodborne for the PlayStation 6. That's when it makes the most sense. I know some people don't want to hear that because that feels way too far away, but Sony has the rest of their generation mapped out. There are still some things we don't know about yet, but the rest of the PS5 generation is mapped out. They know every game that's going to be releasing from their studios between now and the launch of the PlayStation 6. And I promise you, Bloodborne is a PlayStation 6 game. truthfully, I would imagine Sony would only want to do something with Bloodborne when they could guarantee that they could get From Software involved to do something with the sequel. I do think that. I really do believe that. I think that they would have to get From Software involved. And Pushing Polygons comes in out of nowhere from the top ropes, dropping a 10 bomb on you guys. 10 memberships doled out by our good friend Pushing Polygons. Thank you so much for that, man. Good stuff. Pushing Polygons showing some immense support today with some membership gifts. So just like that, takes a chunk off the bar, or adds a chunk to the bar, I should say. Pushing Polygons.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And you know what?
It's dangerous to
I'm going to throw in a Mark Cerny for you.
An absolute indicator of performance.
Let me add that to the counter. So Pushing Polygons clearly wants to get Boss back in here at some point. Good stuff, man. I do want to let everybody in here know, I don't know how many new viewers we have, but membership gifts are a big thing on the channel. It's been a while since I've said this, but click Pushing Polygons gift icon at the top of the chat and just make sure you have it enabled so that way you can opt in to potentially receive a membership gift. I just want to make sure I try to say that every now and again, just because I never know when I have new people tuning in who are not really familiar with the membership gifting thing. LMAO, the 12 T-flop days. Yeah, those were the days, man. Do you think Sony's going to talk about the teraflops with the PS5 Pro? I'm kind of wondering that. It would be pretty funny if they did. Okay, you're saying, MBG, did you see Enotria's new post on the Xbox version of their game? I did not. Maybe I could look that up very quickly. I know that there was like a big situation going on with them. I'll see if I can find... I'm assuming Microsoft responded to them. Because I'm not finding anything on it right now. Sorry for the dead air. I'm just curious about this. Let me check news on the game. I have an update here. Where's the update? Speaking to Insider Gaming. Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything, dude. Most likely a Cerny one-liner T-flop should not be evaluated as system's actual power. Yeah, I could see Mark Cerny acknowledging it just once more to like re-emphasize that point, because he was correct. Mark Cerny was completely correct about the T-flop marketing. Okay. I'm on their Twitter now, Enotria, the last song. I misspelled the name of the game. So they say here, Maskless Ones, thanks to Phil Spencer and our amazing community, we're now in direct contact with the Xbox team. We're excited to work on bringing Enotria, the last song, to Xbox ASAP. We would like to officially thank Phil Spencer and his team for reaching out to us promptly and helping to resolve our situation. We would also like to thank the amazing community for all the support shown in recent days. Your voice has been heard very loud and clear, and your commitment has been heartwarming. We are now working closely with Microsoft, and we hope this collaboration will lead to the game's release for Xbox as soon as possible. So, all right, well, there you go. Really have to wonder what went wrong. I I did see people speculating that maybe it had something to do with the Microsoft layoffs earlier in the year, where Microsoft laid off, I guess, certain individuals that worked in certain departments that would kind of be responsible for working directly with these smaller indie teams to get their games certified and over to the platform. Because this is not the first complaint we've heard, but I guess, they made such a big deal on social media that Phil Spencer himself had to get involved and be like, whoa, what's going on here? Jay Shako says basically it's not you're saying it's a certification issue. Yeah. That's good though. I was going to say, man, I'm not really too surprised that Microsoft got involved though, because it was such a bad look for them, like a developer complaining that they wanted to release their game on their platform but couldn't. I mean, yeah, it makes sense why Phil Spencer would have to step in, because that's just not really what Xbox needs right now. Pushing Polygons, you're saying I can see this leading to bigger problems for Xbox, as with two companies now complaining, getting prompt coverage opens the floodgates for anyone to complain and blow up to get things moved along. That's a good point. Yeah. It's a slippery slope, right? Because once you give special attention to an indie developer for kind of calling you out, at that point going forward, other developers might get the idea, well, we should do that too. I don't know. Maybe it's necessary though. Maybe they do realize that we do need to hire more people for these departments. We do need more employees to be able to handle all this. Well, there we go. At least we have some resolution on that one, because I want to move on to the next topic here, guys. I pretty much said everything I have to say about this GTA 6 marketing rumor. I'll just close it out by just stating that I want to see the game soon. I want to see GTA 6 again. It will be very interesting to see if it has any type of marketing, associated with PlayStation or the PS5 Pro. I'm assuming it will. But either way, I'm just generally excited for the game and can't wait to see more of it. Isaac Adrian with the $2 super chat says, take the effing hat. Take off the effing hat. Why do you do this to me, Isaac? Why do you do this to me, bro? I know it's your life's mission to get me to take this hat off, but I don't know that it's going to happen, man. I'm sorry. Titus with the crying emoji. Not this again. Yeah, I'll check that out next, William, because I think it's a pretty brief thing, but pretty interesting update. I don't know, man. I'm about to just draw a hard line on the ground right now and make it known I am never taking my hat off on this channel. I think that's what I got to do. I got to take back control. It's time for me to put my foot down and take back control. I am never taking my hat off on this channel. You will never see me without my hat. Next stream starts with me. No hat. All right, you know what? I'll just say this. I will take my hat off on this channel, but you're not going to actually see my head. You're going to see something else. All right? Even in the shower? Well, lucky for you, Carl G, I do not plan to stream while I am in the shower. Captain Hook gets it. There's gonna be another hat under my hat. That would be interesting. Taking your hat off is how you would have to sign off at the end of your very last podcast ever. That's a great idea. I mean, I don't know when that would be. I'd like to imagine it's many years from now, because I enjoy doing this. I hope I can do this for as long as possible. But I never thought about that. I never thought about the last stream I ever do. That would be the best way to sign off. I like that idea. If the day ever comes where I just like retire from it, MBG is hiding his male pattern baldness. Pretty much, yeah. Well, it's particularly bad right now because I haven't shaved my head in quite some time, so it's actually growing in. I just look old. Like, that's basically it. I got like that old man energy when my hair grows in. But I've accepted it. I've accepted my fate. Anyway, Alex Mercer, the prototype with a super chat, says, don't take the hat off, man. If you do, you'll mess the natural order. You'll mess with the natural order in the universe, similar to when Mandy smiled in Billy and Mandy. Yeah, I thought about that, Alex Mercer. You could be right. I do feel like I run the risk of disrupting something that just shouldn't be disrupted. The natural order of things. It's the mystery of it all. Carl likes it. One day we'll get there, guys. I just don't know when. Maybe we'll do what OK said. Final stream. Signing off. All right, guys. We are going to move on to the next topic here. This is going to be a brief one, but I have a thread from William Aguilar. He referred me to this, and I want to see if I can... William, do you have a whole thread on it, or... Okay, I see it here. You quote tweeted Garrett Fredley, who, let me see here, senior build engineer, IP preservation at PlayStation. So he says here, for any interested in what my team spoke about regarding PlayStation preservation at the Save the Game symposium, this lovely fellow posted all the slides. And so there are 4 pictures here, and it looks like some type of presentation, like a PowerPoint presentation, and it says, tackling a legacy with PlayStation's asset and IP preservation team. And then the next slide says PlayStation Studios IP preservation, a small team, colloquially called the IPP team, founded in 2022, 3 official members based in NA and the UK, operates within PSS QA. Establish modern preservation practices for past, present, and future titles. Produce the most comprehensive and accessible PSS archive ever built. And then the next slide reads PlayStation Studios preservation, the original premise, backup title data when requested. And there's a bunch of images here basically showing how they make this possible. And then the final slide here says PlayStation Studios IP preservation, what we do. They have engineering, curation, segment, basically broken up into 3 different sections on the pie chart. Engagement, timelines and planning, metrics, restorations, sourcing and discovery, organization, tooling, infrastructure, and title technology. Thank you for that, William. Let me check this out. Okay, yeah, there are even more threads here. I'm noticing, wow, there's a lot going into this. This is good news, though, because it's clear that Sony is getting, or has been, I should say, much more serious about properly preserving their games and the history of PlayStation. And I think that is necessary at this point. I mean, I would say it was necessary the whole time, but now they're just much more serious about it. They have a whole dedicated team. So it says here, PlayStation Studios IP preservation, the consequences. Archival staff were rarely close to the projects, would only archive what they were told about. Limited points of contact meant limited comprehension of the overall project. Data was not analyzed in any way. Once archived, drives/tapes were not regularly inspected. Archives were not region-specific and studio-specific. So basically what they're saying is that archiving is not what they're doing. And it's like they're describing the difference between archiving something and preserving something, and basically trying to put an emphasis on the difference between the two and how preserving is much better than archiving. But either way, essentially, for anybody who cares about PlayStation's history and in future generations being able to interact with, a lot of the stuff that we're engaging with today or engaged with during the PS4 generation or generations previously released, this is I'd say this is pretty important. So we'll have to kind of keep an eye on this. So I did just want to briefly highlight that. We'll have to see what comes of it. We're going to move on to another topic here. Before we do, guys, I want to ask you to please hit that like button. We are currently sitting at 177 likes. Let's see if we can push to get 200 likes for the stream. We still have over 400 people here hanging out. Now, the next topic is one that I think I don't want to say it's causing controversy, but I do think that depending on which angle you're looking at it from, somebody might take this as, wow, is this guy serious? So let me go over what I'm talking about. Really quick, though, William says MBG, the last slide is a tease for PS3 backwards compatibility with Twisted Metal 2010. Interesting. Yeah, we'll see what comes of that, man. Like I said, I've said this many times. I think Sony at some point will have to do something with PS3 backwards compatibility. At some point, they will have to do something. They can't just rely on those PS3 server farms forever. They will break down. There has to be an alternative solution. But I want to go over this here. I have a report here from PlayStation Lifestyle. Sony doesn't have enough original IP, says company leadership. Sony leadership reckons that the company does not have enough original IP, including in its PlayStation division. The group is making a multi-billion-dollar investment into creating original content in a bid to widen its share of the entertainment industry. And in an interview with Financial Times, expressed its desire to, quote, foster, end quote, new IP from the beginning. Quote, whether it's for games, films, or anime, we don't have that much IP that we fostered from the beginning. We're lacking the early phase of IP, and that's an issue for us. That is what Sony CFO and President Hiroki Totoki told Financial Times. Totoki added that Sony as a whole has been better at finding new audiences for existing popular IPs and thinks that the company will not grow without creating content from scratch for higher returns. The article concludes by saying, while new IP is certainly welcome, these comments are a little bit puzzling when it comes to PlayStation because the company has numerous game franchises that it fostered from the beginning, or could have, but have since been abandoned. Look no further than the featured image above for some hints, and they have a image that features games like Infamous and Sly Cooper. Heck, one of PlayStation's biggest new hits from the PS4 era, Bloodborne, was pretty much left to die. At least that's what it looks like right now. Ironically enough, we are going to get more Bloodborne, like I said. But yeah, I want to ask you guys, what do you make of this when it comes to what Hiroki Totoki had to say? Because on one hand, we do have to understand that when Hiroki Totoki says that we're lacking in original IP, he's talking about all of Sony. He's not pointing directly to the PlayStation brand. Michael Lynch with a super chat here, $2 super chat, says, we never did talk about that Xbox topic yesterday. Yeah, I think I'm going to put that one on the back burner for now. And I'm actually kind of glad yesterday worked out the way it did. Well, I mean, even though it was bad news for Concord, but I'm glad it worked out the way it did because the more I thought about it, the more I realized that basically we were just going to rehash the conversation that Microsoft is not really competing with Sony right now. We did cover, so the main driving factor for why that topic was going to be discussed was because of what we just talked about a moment ago, where there was Enotria, the last song. They were being ignored by Microsoft, and they basically said, we're delaying our game indefinitely. And it's like basically Microsoft just handed Sony another like timed console exclusive, and Sony didn't have to do anything. However, the situation was rectified because Phil Spencer did step in, and Xbox, as we said a couple of moments ago, they did respond to them. But yeah, other than that, I was just going to talk deeply about how it really does seem like Microsoft has given up trying to compete with Sony in the console space. But the more I think about it, I'm like, well, all right, I guess maybe we've kind of known that for some time, you know? So I'll keep an eye on what Microsoft is doing in this area when it comes to these exclusives and whatnot. But we do have something else, Michael Lynch, that we're going to talk about in a little while regarding Black Myth Wukong that kind of, I guess, leans into this a little bit. So, yeah. But getting back to what Hiroki Totoki had to say, he says that he believes Sony needs to invest in more original IP across the board. And this article points out that, well, when it comes to the PlayStation brand, they've been doing a pretty good job of that. But here's the thing. I do think PlayStation has basically been the leader for Sony in terms of new IP creation, because I know Sony, they're not just video games, they're movies, they're music, they're a lot more than just video games. But when you look at the PlayStation brand, and especially look over the course of all 5 generations of the PlayStation console, dude, these studios and even their partner studios that they've worked with have created so much original IP, and a lot of the biggest games that, you know, we are awaiting sequels for today, or did play sequels for, or just waiting to hear more from, right? These are games that did start as new AAA IP. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think in this specific area for Sony as a company, PlayStation is the bedrock. And I think that these other areas of Sony, you know, Hiroki Totoki basically talking about the company holistically, they should pay close attention to the way Sony should pay close attention to the PlayStation division and the way that they've operated over the years, because I think that they basically have shown that this is how you do it, right? It's not to say that new IP isn't a risk. It's absolutely a risk, and it can go wrong and it can fail, as we just saw yesterday. But the risk needs to be taken either way. Okay, with the $2 super chat, says IP ownership and control will dominate the next 10 years. Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. Okay. IP is going to become everything. I mean, it basically already is everything, but it's going to be emphasized even more so in the coming years, because hardware generally will still be very relevant, and it will matter, as we've established, and platforms will matter. But at the end of the day, the only separating factor between these companies and their platforms will be the IP, right? When PlayStation in the far future is just an application that you boot up in your brain, because I'm just assuming that's what the future is going to be like. When it's just an application you boot up inside your brain and you enter the Matrix or whatever, you know, PlayStation's specific IP is going to be the only thing that stops you from going somewhere else. Because there's going to be another company out there that says, well, we have this IP, so why don't you open this application in your brain instead? Don't open that app, open this one. And yeah, that's why I've always kind of emphasized that exclusivity will always matter to platform holders. It has to, because while you can make, well, I guess the argument could be made the other way with what you're saying here, okay, when it comes to IP ownership, because it is possible in the far, far future. No, I don't know if that's possible, actually. I was going to say maybe one day Sony will kind of give up on the PlayStation Store, but that makes zero sense. That's not going to happen. The PlayStation Store is Sony's bread and butter, or PlayStation's bread and butter and moneymaker. So the PlayStation Store is always going to be the priority for Sony. That is their platform. Sony's platform is the PlayStation Store. outside of that, everything is just a conduit to get you funneled into that PlayStation storefront. So because of that, IP will be critical, IP ownership will be critical, and exclusivity to some extent will be critical. At least that's what I believe. But yeah, when we talk about further consolidation in the future, if that is where we're headed, that's what it's all about. You know, these companies that are being purchased, they're being purchased for their talent, but they're being purchased for their IP as well. Every AAA video game publisher wants IP specifically that can be juggernaut IP, heavy hitters, money makers. I mean, I feel like that's kind of obvious, but it is becoming more. I think it's becoming more emphasized more so as we kind of, you know, go further into this generation and to kind of, you know, see where gaming is headed as a whole. I think it can be detrimental though, but I am just overall happy to hear that Sony holistically is saying, look, we need to make a multi-billion-dollar investment in new intellectual property. Because while a lot of new IP might fail or not do as well, if it wasn't for taking the chance on new IP, we wouldn't have Ghost of Tsushima. We wouldn't have Death Stranding. We wouldn't have Uncharted. We wouldn't have The Last of Us. I mean, you think about the studios right now that are developing new IP for PlayStation. Sony Santa Monica, new IP. Naughty Dog, new IP. Blue Point Games, new IP. Ben Studio, new IP. I'm not saying, I don't know if they're all going to be next level, like game changers, but I'm still excited until I see what they are. Like, I'm just excited at the notion of a brand new game, new characters, new world, new everything. Sometimes, as I said, I just want to keep emphasizing it can go horribly wrong, just like we saw with Concord. But, you know, listen, I will give Sony the credit. I will at least give Sony the credit that while I think they were unbelievably misguided in their assumptions with something like Concord and with Firewalk, I at least give them the credit that they chose to invest in a new IP. You know, it was a huge disaster and a big mistake, but I guess their heart, if you want to put it that way, was in the right place where it's like, we got to do something new. So I want to see Sony continue to invest in new IP, but like I said yesterday, I want to see them do so. I want to see them take more educated risks, not ones that just seem like, whoa, who did you think? Like, what? I don't know about this one, you know? I don't want to see new IP that just looks totally questionable in like, I don't think anybody wants this, you know? I want to see new IP that frankly is a blend of some stuff that is familiar, but stuff that is also feels very fresh. And I think that's really what Sony should strive for, at least when it comes to the PlayStation side of things. We have Jerry A with a super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, let's take dead IPs like Bloodborne and The Order and turn them into TV shows and anime movies. That would be fascinating. Well, I want to emphasize, Bloodborne is definitely not a dead IP. Although, it's into Jerry, that you mentioned turning it into an anime because Sony made a direct investment a couple of years back into From Software. And the reason for this was because they said they wanted to kind of do some multimedia stuff with them, like movies or shows. So I do think that we will see that, as long as that's still part of Sony's plan with their overall investment. But it is also worth noting that when Sony made that investment, they made it clear that their investment in From Software was first and foremost for games. And so, I mean, I don't know. Listen, as much as I do want new IP, Bloodborne was a new IP, you know, and it never did get a sequel, never did get a follow-up, and it's a very beloved game, a very beloved new IP that has so much potential. And Hideaki Miyazaki, he said, or Hidetaka, sorry, not Hideaki. I almost said, I combined Hideaki Nishino and Hidetaka Miyazaki. He said that Bloodborne is his favorite world that he ever created. It's his favorite game that he ever made. He had the most fun making Bloodborne. And I'm like, dude, at some point, we have to see Sony and From Software team up for a Bloodborne 2. It's literally right there. It's right there. Not only will it make them a ton of money and get a ton of sales, but Miyazaki said himself, like, he loves that world, and it was his favorite time ever making a game. So I'm sure he would love to do a sequel. And if you're Sony, you got to jump on that. So I do think that when it comes to the Bloodborne IP, we will see more. When it comes to the Order 1886, I agree it would be awesome to see Sony try to revive that and do something more with it, but unfortunately, I don't think they will. I think what we're going to see more so from this point forward is just more brand new IP from their creative teams. I think that towards the end of this generation and entering the PlayStation 6 generation, I think we're going to see an onslaught of new IP for PlayStation. I do. We're going to see sequels, of course. Like, we know we're getting Horizon 3. That's something that Guerrilla's working on. We know we're going to eventually get another God of War. Like, these games are not going away. We're going to get more Marvel games. I mean, we saw with Insomniac that, you know, they're for at least until like 2030, they're like a Marvel studio. And they're going to move on to making like X-Men games, which could be very awesome. But I think that a lot of these PlayStation studios are just going to start to work on and release new IP. You know, that's going to be a build up towards the end of this generation, as well as, you know, going into the first half of the PlayStation 6 generation. But I think it's good. I think Sony is right to focus on new IP and to basically say, look, we have to cultivate our own stuff and build our own stuff organically. That's what I want to hear. I think that maybe Hiroki Totoki is a little bit... I mean, I'm sure he's aware of the amount of new intellectual property and original titles that PlayStation has made and that have went on to become big hits. But I just generally get the sense that he's basically saying, like, we want to do even more than that. And I think that can only be a good thing, truthfully. As much as I love my sequels, and I really do love my sequels, I love my remakes, I love my sequels, you guys know this, I love new IP. Probably the most. New IP undoubtedly it has the potential to be like the most exciting thing in the world, right? Because it's like limitless until you know what it is. Who knows? And we have a Stephen Leon, member for 11 months, says, off topic, the Metallica concert was off the chains. It was my son's first one. We paid for nosebleeds, but we got free floor passes. That's awesome to hear, Stephen. Yeah, I saw Metallica live once, and it was awesome. I mean, Metallica is... I actually see Metallica's YouTube channel pop up on my feed quite a bit because they actually post a lot of their live performances, like professionally recorded from all their different concerts and all different songs. So I can imagine it was an awesome experience because I was watching a couple of their videos recently, and what I saw was like, damn, they're on point. I mean, they're old. Metallica's older now, dude, but they still got it. They absolutely still got it, man. And I'm happy to hear that you had such a good time, Steven. And you're saying it was your son's first concert. That's a great first concert, dude. That's an amazing first concert. I don't remember what my first concert was. You think I would? I think I don't remember it because it was super underwhelming. I think it was like bands I just didn't know or care about. But oh, that's pretty cool too. Five Finger Death Punch was there. Well, I guess they opened for them. I do like Five Finger Death Punch. Five Finger Death Punch is a band I grew up listening to, so they're like a bit nostalgic for me. Like when I was like a really angry, like a teenager, but you know, transitioning into a young adult. It was like, yeah, I was like, man, these guys kind of remind me of Pantera a little bit. like an even more aggressive Pantera. Of course, I do think some of Five Finger Death Punch stuff is a little, it can be a little bit cringe at times. Absolutely, but generally speaking, I do like a lot of what they do. I think they're very talented. That's awesome. That's a great combo. Five Finger Death Punch opening for Metallica. Good stuff, man. So I'm happy to hear you had such a good time. Steven, my question is, what was your favorite song they played that night? I think the best concert I ever went to, believe it or not, was Guns N' Roses. And I don't say that because they're my favorite band. Like, genuinely, their concert was insane, dude. I was like blown away. I'm like, this is the greatest show I've ever been to. Your favorite performance that night was One. That's awesome. I just came across a video the other day of, it was, I don't know the name of the channel, but it was a drummer. And he basically changed the drums of One. He's like, if Danny Carey played the drums to One, and it was basically Tool drumming over top of Metallica's One, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty sick. It sounded really good. Unholy Mayhem says, I've never been to a concert. Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably more common than you would think for people. For some people, where it's like they've just never been to a concert or a live show. But Jakey Steve says, worst ever. It actually wasn't that bad. Like, dude, it sounded pretty cool. It was different. Like, you definitely have to adjust your expectations, but it was pretty cool. You saw GNR before, but Slash wasn't there. Yeah, I don't really go to many shows. Like, honestly, I only go to concerts like far and few in between. I remember I saw Alice Cooper and Iron Maiden together, and that, oh my god, dude, that was the loudest concert I ever. I thought I was deaf when I was done. I was like, I can't hear. I'm very concerned. But that show was awesome. It was great to see Alice Cooper. That was a while ago, man. I think that was like 12 years ago at this point. Where's the time go? Devil Shooter, you've been to a Def Leppard concert? Your son now wants to go to Vegas to see Bruno Mars. He has the itch now. Yeah, it's often like that. When you see a really good live show, it can kind of get its hooks in you, and you're like, man, I want to go to more. Oasis is rumored to be going to the US MBG. Oh, man. Yeah, apparently it's really hard to get those Oasis tickets. But that's good stuff, man. Okay here says, MBG, they have to invest in their own new IP as Ryan broke the bank acquiring IP. They don't have the pockets Microsoft does. Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I do agree with that. I think that what we just saw and what we're still seeing play out is Sony investing in IP. I mean, to be fair, like the teams that they purchased and the studios that they purchased, a lot of it was for new IP. Concord, new IP, Fair Games, which we're going to talk about momentarily, new IP, Marathon, Revival IP. So it's not like they haven't. I mean, Helldivers 2 is not a new IP, but it may as well be because the first game was like so under the radar. But I do agree. I think that further investment in their own stuff and their own IP and their own studios will be necessary in order to compete at the highest level possible. Where I didn't touch upon this yesterday because I was very ranty yesterday. I was very revved up yesterday, as I'm sure you guys noticed. But something that I think does need to be highlighted is the fact that Sony is trying to fill in gaps that exist in their portfolio with their studios and with their games and their intellectual property. It may be true that nobody was asking, or not many people were asking, for a hero shooter from Sony. And I don't know that that's necessarily the portfolio gap that Sony should have been so interested in trying to fill in so quickly. But I do think this is interesting because I think Sony kind of realizes, like, when it comes to the more traditional single player AAA narrative driven games, action RPGs, action adventure games. You know, you got Spider-Man in there, open world games. I think Sony realizes that they kind of have that on lock, right? So they really need to start spreading the field, and I think that's what we're seeing. We see something like Helldivers 2. Nothing really quite like Helldivers 2, you know, anywhere else throughout PlayStation Studios. Well, to be fair, there's nothing really like Helldivers 2 out there, but I do kind of see how Sony wants to start filling in these gaps, and I am all for that. Like, I do want to see Sony continue to diversify and, you know, invest in other genres and other areas of gaming, because they should have a diverse slate and a diverse offering. So that way there's something there basically for everyone. But I just think that they have to be a little bit more thoughtful, truthfully, in their approach to that, because again, man, like, I really don't mean to sound like a broken record, but my hope is that, okay, Sony, you tried to do something different with Concord, where it's a hero shooter, it's colorful, it's got a colorful cast of characters, I guess, as they put it, and it's definitely different from anything we've seen from your first-party studios. So I get it. They probably thought, we can find that new audience. I don't know if I would say modern audience, but they definitely thought we could find a new audience here. And there was no audience. You know, like, it's not that there isn't an audience for hero shooters, but I do think that what Sony should do is take a look at Helldivers 2 and maybe kind of realize that Helldivers 2, I think, just has a different appeal to the people who are currently on PlayStation, but also on PC, right? It was just a unique game that it wasn't trying too hard. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like when you look at Concord, you get the feeling like it was very try hard. Like, they really wanted to make it work. And with Helldivers 2, the irony is, like, they didn't really try that hard. They were just like, oh yeah, it's fine. And then that's the game that blew up. So I guess what I'm trying to say is Sony has to, I think, just more than anything, if they're going to invest in new IP, I think that they have to try to stick with, I don't want to say, if I say something tried and true, then I think you could replace that with something unoriginal. And that's one of the main criticisms, you know, surrounding something like Concord. So when I say tried and true, I guess what I really mean is something that just overall has a better chance of finding an audience starting on PlayStation and maybe going beyond that to something like PC, mainly because, I mean, there are players on PlayStation who have invested in previous multiplayer experiences or new IP, right, that they're not around anymore, but they all, like, if you look at something like Killzone, if you look at something like SOCOM, if you look at something like Resistance, they have a commonality between all three of them. They are different games, but there's just the common theme is none of them are bright and colorful. None of them are trying to appeal to a younger generation. I mean, to be fair, these games at this point are older now. But when they came out, they were trying to appeal to a younger generation, I guess, if you will. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense. I just think Sony has to, they do need to invest in new IP, and they need to do so in different portfolio areas that they need to fill out, but they need to not overextend their reach the way that they just did with Concord. They need to not be so try hard the way that they did with Concord. They need to do things that are closer in line to what we see with Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 is not some colorful, over-the-top game that's trying to compete with the Fortnite players and win over the Fortnite players. It's not trying to do that or win over, you know, it's not trying to pull players away from any other game. It's just trying to be what it is. And if anything, the art style, the color palette. I know that these things are not, at the end of the day, the ultimate driving force for people, but they do play a big role in whether or not people find your game appealing. I do think if you look at Helldivers 2, the color palette, the art style, it looks more in line with like classic PlayStation multiplayer games. You know, where it's trying to be a little bit more on the mature side. It's not, I mean, it is very silly. I'm not trying to make it sound like Helldivers 2 is a serious game, but it's leaning more so on the mature side. And I think that that's what Sony needs to maybe start with and be a little bit more scarce with because I don't know, like this whole generation has been kind of strange if you think about it, right? Like Sony starts with something like Destruction All-Stars, and you know, I remember when that game was revealed, like PlayStation players and fans were kind of looking at each other like, we go from Twisted Metal to this? Why? And again, I think I want to ask you this question. When we look at something like Destruction All-Stars, where would that game be today if it had a completely different art style? It wasn't trying to basically be the colorful, over-the-top, in-your-face, like, this game's for the new generation. But instead, it was just Twisted Metal. Maybe the gameplay is basically the same. It's very bare bones, but it's Twisted Metal. How would it have fared? I mean, I could say that maybe it still would have suffered, and it would have maybe flopped in the end because of the gameplay was just kind of weak, generally speaking. But what I do believe is that the PlayStation fan base would have embraced it very differently. I do believe that. And that's what I think Sony is just really kind of screwing up on, is that in their pursuit of trying to expand to new and different audiences, they're missing something. They're just missing a key ingredient, a necessary ingredient. Helldivers 2 had it. Almost every other multiplayer game that they've tried since, though, or before and after, I should say, just seems to be missing it. Yeah, I mean, something like MotorStorm, even bringing that back. This is interesting. Joshua Reese says, in an old video, MBG, you said Sony aren't stupid. They must have figured out how to do what they do to add live service. I agreed, but how do we feel now? Yeah, so I will say this. My entire view on Sony's approach to live service has changed, because previously, and I guess that we basically did transition to the next topic here, because I'm going to mention Fair Games in a moment, because we have a new report on Fair Games. The transition to live service, I wasn't opposed to this because I do like to play some live service games, and I do like to play multiplayer games. And I've even played some of Sony's previous multiplayer games, not deeply, but I did experience them, and I was like, oh, yeah, it was pretty cool what they're doing here. My thoughts on their live service approach previously was basically lined up with, okay, so it seems to me like what they're going to be doing is making live service versions of like most of their very successful IP. So, for example, Ghost of Tsushima. We're going to get a live service Ghost of Tsushima game and a sequel to the single player. But for those who were done with Ghost of Tsushima single player, there will be a constantly ongoing and evolving world that, you know, in the Ghost of Tsushima world that you can go interact with, engage with, and give your money to if you want. I thought that that's what they were going to do for all their major IP. Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us. Actually, they were doing that with The Last of Us, and then it got canceled. I thought that they were going to... Well, I guess they still are doing it with Horizon, but I thought maybe even one day... I don't know if they would do it for God of War. I don't know if it makes sense to do it for God of War. They probably could make something like that work, but just basically creating these always on, you know, perpetual game worlds based on their franchises, like their major ones. I thought that's what they were going to do. And did kind of seem like they were doing that. But then we heard The Last of Us got canceled. Then we saw what Concord ended up being. Then we saw Fair Games. Then they bought Bungie. And then, you know, the rest is history. And so where we are now, I feel like their approach to live service at this point, I was way off the mark. Their approach to live service is the opposite of that. Their approach is just do stuff that's like the opposite of what we're known for. And I can understand psychologically like where that comes from, where it's like, okay, yeah, if you want a new audience, then you have to kind of do the opposite of what you normally do. But I think that there is that great risk of like, but if it doesn't work, you're just going to alienate the audience you currently have and then be left with no one. And we literally just saw that play out in front of us. So, you know, I at this point in time, I don't really know what to expect other than we are getting new IP from Sony. They are not fully giving up on the live service. I do want to mention, and I probably should have mentioned this yesterday, I did see people saying, so this means they're going to be completely done pursuing live service, right? No. Sony's never going to stop pursuing live service, to the dismay of some. But the good news is they're learning a lot, and they're learning a lot very quickly. And they should be able to make much better, much more educated decisions with their live service endeavors going forward. But I want to refer to a new report here from Push Square, where it says internal Sony, Fair Games, PS5, and PC chatter is reportedly quite positive. Now, I thought that this was quite ironic because not in yesterday's stream, but the day before, I actually reacted. I re-reacted to the Fair Games trailer, and I did not like what I saw. But it says here, with all the Concord doom and gloom going around today, why don't we try a different tact? With Firewalk Studios seemingly in a precarious position, the spotlight now shifts to Sony's other PS5 PC shooter punt, the unfortunately titled Fair Games, from the Jade Raymond-led first-party studio Haven. While it is natural to be skeptical, especially in light of today's events, at least internally, Sony seems to think they may have a banger on their hands. See, it's just making me nervous, man. I know, like, I feel like I should feel good about this, but I don't know why I feel like the opposite. The word comes to us by way of GamesIndustry.biz's Christopher Dring, who, on the latest episode of GI Microcast, recorded before the Concord news came out, speculated that Sony had sent Concord out to die. So the podcast where this came from, they speculated that Concord was just kind of sent out there to just, all right, yeah, just get out there. In contrast with this bleak assessment, though, Christopher Dring said that he'd been hearing quite a bit of positive buzz about Haven's game. Quote, I've heard good things about Jade Raymond's game. It is Fair Games. I've heard good things about that. So there's a few. I know people who are a bit skeptical about the trailer, but I've heard internal chatter is very positive about it. End quote. And so that's basically all he said. And he didn't really follow up or say anything more. And I want to ask you guys, what do you make of this? What do you make of this report coming from GamesIndustry.biz's Christopher Dring saying that he believes Concord was sent out to die, but he's been hearing a lot of very positive chatter, a lot of positive buzz about Haven's Fair Games. What do you think of this? Upcoming failure. Journalists, I think you meant to say, aren't worth listening to. Copium. Until I see, I can't judge it. Dan says, you're asking your chat who hates multiplayer live service games what they think. Well, I guess I'm hoping that some people will be able to, talk about it from a more neutral perspective. Not as somebody who's excited for live service, but also not as somebody who hates them, but just kind of like looking at it from a holistic standpoint. Just curious. Well, here are my thoughts on this. So, my thoughts prior to hearing this when it comes to Fair Games are not very positive. It's a brand new studio who's never made a game. And honestly, the similarities between Haven Studio and Firewalk Studio are not great. They're both brand new studios, new teams that whatever game they choose to release, in the case of Firewalk, Concord, in the case of Haven, Fair Games, this is their first time up to bat. And they're both live service. And when I watch the Fair Games trailer, it's a CG trailer. It's a CGI trailer, so they make it clear it's not actual gameplay. But the aesthetic of the game, the tone of the game, is very cringe to me. I can't judge the gameplay because, well, we didn't see gameplay. I think we get some idea of what the gameplay is going to be like based off of that CG trailer. Like, we're seeing like CGI gameplay, if that makes sense, where it's like, oh, okay, so you're going to be infiltrating a base or an area, a facility of some kind. You're going to be breaking in. You're going to be using gadgets. You're going to be encountering other teams of players trying to break in to secure the loot. And you're going to be fighting them and shooting them and using abilities and stuff. So the trailer did reveal that. And I will say the premise of Fair Games, it might have more going for it. And I say this because the premise of Fair Games is a heist game, and there really aren't many games like that, right? So a lot of people said that Concord failed the way it did because it was unoriginal from top to bottom, but one of the biggest reasons it was called unoriginal is because it's a hero shooter trying to enter an already oversaturated market with a ton of competition at a $40 price point. I feel like the one major thing that Fair Games has going for it is the fact that there's really not many heist games. Like, Payday is truthfully the only multiplayer heist game I can think of. And Payday 3, as far as I'm aware, was a complete flop. And the reason was because it was just not good, apparently. So it almost makes me wonder if this game, for as down as I am, because I did not like the trailer, I'm not going to lie, I'm very nervous about the cringe factor of this game. Because the cringe factor for Concord was off the charts, and the cringe factor for Fair Games is not looking any better. I can get over that. I'll be honest. Like, I can get over, like, all right, they have like, even Call of Duty these days is kind of cringe to me. Like, when I see their new trailers and stuff, and it's just, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's very obvious that a lot of these games, the way they're marketed, they're not trying to appeal to me. They are genuinely, and it's very obvious, trying to appeal to a different generation of gamers. Doesn't mean that there won't be something there that I could enjoy, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that, putting that stuff aside, I wonder if there's something in the gameplay itself that could, I don't know, generate a very different feeling compared to what we've seen so far. It is worth noting that, people were not very high on Helldivers 2 when it came out. When Helldivers 2, or before it came out, when Helldivers 2 was shown off in these PlayStation events, people weren't negative towards it. They were just like mostly indifferent towards it. It's like, oh yeah, it looks fine, I guess, but I don't know if I'm going to play it. I think there's more negativity for Fair Games, but I guess it'll really come down to the gameplay. But here's the one thing that I want to tell you that makes me take a big step back for my own sake and think, you know what, MBG, you're sounding pretty positive right now. You're trying to have good faith. You're trying to play devil's advocate here, whatever, which I guess is like the opposite of having good. I don't know. The point is, I'm trying to be a little bit positive towards this game. But this whole idea of, oh yeah, there's positive buzz inside of PlayStation about Fair Games. The play testing is going well. People are saying it's good. You see, I don't know that I'm ready to fall for this, and I don't think I'm going to, because that's all fine, well, and good. Like, it's good to hear something positive. But I just read a quote yesterday from Herman Hulst that came out last year when talking about Concord, where he legitimately said that he thinks PlayStation fans are going to be quite pleased at what they see. And what that reveals to me is exactly what we're seeing here, where there was positivity. There was positive buzz internally at Sony PlayStation about Concord. And I read another quote and another excerpt yesterday from Firewalk Studios themselves, where they specifically said, and this is the point I really want to highlight, Firewalk's studio head emphasized that playtesting was going great for Concord. So they revealed they playtested the game, and the people who were playtesting it apparently loved it. See, this is why... No, I'm not going to rant. I'm just saying this is why that's great that we're hearing this positive word about fair games, but I'm going to remain extremely skeptical, because all of the things I'm hearing about fair games is exactly, like, basically what I was hearing about Concord as well. And they share the exact same trajectory, where new studio, never made a game, talented developers, purchased by Sony. First thing we see is a CGI trailer, still no gameplay. They go very quiet with the game, but the few things we've heard about the game are positive. And then we see the result. So I'm not sitting here, I'm not going to call it. I'm not going to say Fair Games is going to fail. I'm not saying it's going to succeed. The only real positive thing I feel like I can say about Fair Games right now, that I feel a little bit more confident in saying, is that I think the fact that it's in a very different / unique genre of game could bode well for it, where people who see the gameplay or engage with it, maybe there will be like a beta or something. Regardless of how off the charts the cringe factor is, maybe there's a chance people will resonate with the gameplay. You know? Maybe there's a chance, but I'm not putting my money down on that. I'm just going to say, for now, when it comes to Fair Games, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to watch. And I'm going to say that there is more pressure now on Fair Games. I think the unfortunate impact that Concord had on this game, on PlayStation Studios, is people are going to be viewing Sony's live service games with a much more critical eye now. And Kane Z7 comes in. Kane Z7 out of nowhere, dropping a 5-bomb on you guys. Let's get some W's flowing in the chat for our good friend Kane here. He's coming in saying, you know what, guys? I want to drop a couple gifts. So he drops 5 for us, and with that, he brings us up to 15 members on the day. So Kane just set you guys up for a potential 10-bomb to get us to the goal of 25 members today, guys. So we hit that 10-bomb. Doesn't have to be a 10-bomb, but if we do hit that goal of 25, like I said earlier, we will bring Boss back in here. I think it's been long enough, and we will feed the beast. I'm sure he's very eager to get some treats. He's always eager for treats. I think Luna's in here, though. But Kane Z7, thank you so much for that, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate all the support you guys show the channel. Means a lot. Unknown says he wants reps. Listen, I did some reps for the first time in a while yesterday. I did do my workout this morning, too. If we hit 50 members today, I mean, I'm not saying we won't. I never know. You guys always surprise me. If we hit 50 members, we can do more reps. We can blast some Metal Gear music and bust out those reps. But for now, we're making our way to 25. Felt good doing those reps yesterday, though. And Hellbound 1981, the legend returns. It's always so funny when I see Hellbound pop up now, because I see his cat, and his cat now reminds me of Luna. But Hellbound 1981 drops another 5 bomb for you guys. Another 5 memberships gifted. I need more W's flowing in the chat right this instant for the legend Hellbound 1981. Hellbound, let me see.
Enough from me. We're going to have the games do our talking.
I'll give you a Jim Ryan. I don't play the Jim Ryan. I need to get a soundbite for Herman Holst. I've been kind of waiting on it because I'm like assuming that the next event we get from PlayStation, Herman will talk at it and maybe he'll drop some kind of quote or something, some kind of line I can use. But with Hellbound's 5 bomb, we are now sitting at 20 members on the day. So guys, we're five members away. We're right there. Hellbound set you up for a 5 bomb. Let's see what happens. Very much appreciate it, man. We have Count Quackula. Sorry, I'm just processing that name. I like that name. He says with the $2 super chat, Concord plays fine. It's just everything else. I do agree. Yeah, like I've been unbelievably like brutal. Maybe not unbelievably. It's very believable. I've been very brutal on Concord, but I have, no matter how brutal I was toward it, always try to say when I'm finished ranting that the bones of the game are there. And there is a part of me that feels a little bit bad that there definitely are talented developers who probably are not trying to make any kind of statement with this game, but they're just trying to make a fun game. I have no doubt there's 150 people working at that studio, and that's all they're focused on is just making a really fun game, and there's no more to it. You know, not speaking to the studio's culture. And they did that. You know, like the game doesn't feel bad. It doesn't. Like it's not broken. It's actually very polished. But everything else surrounding it is the problem. And it's so interesting to see, I think, an example of a game where it's like, so is the gameplay bad? Well, no, it's not bad. It's not like the most original either. I want to make that clear. I'm not trying to make it sound like the gameplay is exquisite, top notch, best of the best. It's not that either, but it's very competent and very polished, and it works. It's very interesting to see the scenario. It's like that exists. So then how did the game fail this bad? Oh, just literally everything else around that gameplay? Like literally everything. Every other aspect, bad, unlikable. People aren't happy with it. And it just goes to show, it proves that we say gameplay is king, right? But how far does that go? It turns out there's a limit. You know, there is a limit where and I think that limit is you reach that limit when you have competent gameplay, but you fail in every other area and you're surrounded by competition. That's a deadly combination right there. That's a combination where it's like, yeah, I'm here for the gameplay, but there's this game right over there that plays even better or just as good, but it looks better too, and it sounds better, and the characters are more interesting. Oh, and it's free to play. And it's like, yeah, you're cooked, man. So I don't know what's going to happen with the future of the studio, but it is true that they know how to make a game. They do. They know how to make competent video game mechanics, at least in the hero shooter genre. What that means for the future remains to be seen. We have Kane Z7 with a super chat as well, and he says, here in Brazil, we say Tamo Junto. I don't know if I said that correctly. And it says, or you're saying here, it's like, I've got your back, bro. So keep up the good rants. Keep going, man. Well, thank you for that, Kane. I'm sorry if I completely destroyed your saying, but you're just conveying that you've got my back. And I appreciate that. Yeah. We have a great community here. Shout out to all of you guys. Really. There are a lot of people out there who are not very fond of me at all. Some people just straight up despise me. And that's fine. You know, that's the nature of the beast. But it makes it even more important to, you know, to highlight that we do have a lot of people here that I think, you know, make up a pretty solid community. Very generous community and a very supportive community. And I know that sometimes there are disagreements within the community, and that's okay. It happens. But I'm just appreciative of the support, you know? I'm thankful we can keep this thing going. Unholy Mayhem says, how can they hate you? Well, I mean, I've had, you know, I do have some toxic traits at times. I won't deny that. Not a perfect person, you know? All right. We have another super chat from Derp Jones. $2 super chat. And he says, can you share any memories from Modern Warfare 2 2009? My favorite Call of Duty. Yeah, I really enjoyed that Call of Duty as well. Some of my memories with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2009. I mean, it's not necessarily a good memory. I don't know. It depends on which way you view it. Like, it's a very nostalgic memory. But one of the things that I remember being kind of shocked by with Modern Warfare 2 is how just wrecked I would get. Because I played so much Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, and I was not like a pro, but I was pretty good. And then I played World at War, and I was pretty decent at that. But I remember with Modern Warfare 2 from 2009, it really felt like it was the kill streaks and the noob tube. Like, it was the potent combination of the noob tube it was very broken, and it like ruined a lot of matches for me. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. But then people who were kind of exploiting that and then getting these insane kill streaks like AC-130s and just blowing up the map. And it was like awesome because it's like, man, if I can do that, like if I could get an AC-130 and I could start streaking, the game was it had the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. That's basically my memory of Modern Warfare 2, where I think because of that, I don't hold it in nearly as high regard as I do Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, where Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare had it was more balanced overall, I think. And we got Tin Blood coming in. I love to see it, man. I love to see new people coming in and dropping some membership gifts. Tin Blood comes in and drops the 5 bomb to take us to the goal. 25 members hit. I need to see some W's flowing in the chat for Tin Blood. Thank you so much for that, man. Let me see what soundbite I can give you here. How about I give you the Screaming Gopher? That's what we do, man. When we hit the goal, we scream. It may sound like a painful scream. It may sound like an agonizing scream, but believe me when I tell you, that is a scream of joy, my friend. That is what I sound like when I scream a scream of happiness, you know? So Tin Blood, thank you so much, my friend. We now must feed the beast and feed the Micro Panther as we continue to make our way through these topics. Let me update this goal. So we will, for the remainder of this stream, we will strive to see if we can hit 50 members. Because if we can hit 50 members, we hit 50 yesterday. If we do end up hitting 50 members, we'll do some reps at the end of the stream as well. So it's up to you guys. Obviously, I encourage anybody, if you want to keep the member train going, by all means, please do so. It helps the channel and the community tremendously. But before I bring Boss in and feed him some treats, I do want to just wrap up this super chat. So Derp Jones, I did enjoy Modern Warfare 2, and it was an awesome game. It was really fun. Oh, you know what? I totally forgot. I have to mention this. I don't know how I forgot about this. My best memory with Modern Warfare 2, 2009, dude, my mind was blown that they had a third-person mode. I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy shit, they have a third-person mode in this game. And I played it so much, and it was so fun. And it just made me so depressed for so many years after that, because they never brought it back until, I think, Modern Warfare 2 remake, the newer one. And I thought that was crazy, because I was like, dude, this third person mode, it reminded me so much of, like, not necessarily SOCOM, but like a more fast paced, less tactical SOCOM, just something that was just more run and gun, but still kind of gave me that vibe. And I'm like, man, we just don't have enough third person military shooters like this. And so that's another fond memory as well. And then Kane Z7 says, hey, MBG, you still watch spectacle vids? Or wait, sorry. I don't know why I said spectacle. Space ice vids. I was like, spectacle? What are spectacle vids? Do I still watch Space Ice vids on stream? I haven't in a while, but we might soon. We might do it again soon. Space Ice vids are really funny. His videos are really funny. I didn't want to like overdo it. That has been quite some time though. So I'll think about it, Kane. Maybe we could do that again soon. But let me go get Boss so we can give him some treats, and we will continue on with these topics, because we still have 1 to 2 topics left to discuss. Let me double check. Yeah, okay. So we're making good time. Let me grab Boss.
Boss, do you read me? It's time to feed the beast.
All right, here we go. He was waiting, dude. Luna, here's what we'll do. Pour some up here. Pour some here. So we got to share, guys. Okay, so Luna, your treats are up here. All right. Why are you screaming? It's okay. Right here, look. Did you guys hear that? Did you hear Boss like scream? There you go. The beast and the micro panther must feed. What a chonk. Yeah. I just accept it's just muscle. I like to tell myself he's doing reps in the basement, you know, at night when I'm sleeping. Salvazard06 says, hey, MBG, if Concord swapped its characters for PlayStation characters, do you think it would fare any better? Absolutely. Yes. 100% yes. The game would still be... It would have an audience. I'm not saying the audience would be big, but it would have an audience right now. That audience would be probably very core, loyal PlayStation fans that love these games. Absolutely. I don't think it would be a majorly successful live service hit, but I think it would have fared. If you're asking me, would it have done better? Like 110% yes. Here, boss. Boss is still so disturbed by Luna, man. Like, he won't even finish his snacks when she's near him. I have to give him the rest of his snacks on the ground here. All right. Broccoli Rob, you're saying there's no way Sony just walks away from a $200 million loss. They 100% will try to relaunch Concord in some manner if they were smart. they would insert new characters and rename. You know what's interesting, Broccoli Rob? I was talking to Mrs. MBG about this a little bit last night, and because I was telling her, like, or I was asking her, I was like, do you think they're going to try to relaunch this? Because I don't think they should. And she was like, yeah, they can, and it would be fine. All they have to do is just completely replace all the characters with more interesting characters and just change the art style, get new characters. It's basically what you said, like rename some stuff and maybe even bring a different color palette, you know? And, you know, she said that she thinks it could stand a chance. And I don't know. I was pretty heated yesterday with my ranting, and my stance yesterday basically was that it needs to just be buried. I think it's over. I don't think it stands any chance. But there is that reality, right? That, yeah, that's a $200 million loss. Oh, hello, Leia. Leia's here too. I didn't even know she was in here. Oh, man, we got all 3 cats in here. This is a rare. Look at this. Look at this. We got all 3 cats, bro. Boss is literally meowing at Luna. This is crazy. I don't think there's ever been a time where all 3 of these cats have been on stream. Shem says W. This is worth 4 W's. All right, Leia had enough. That's what's so funny about Leia is like she's like the most antisocial, I would say. And she'll make her appearance every now and again, but it'll be very brief. And this is the part of the stream where Boss just has to sit in front of the camera. So that's cool. You guys can enjoy that while you hear my voice. Just gonna back up here. All right, the stream has officially been fully taken over by cats now. This is a showcase level, 3 cats. Oh, my camera can't focus. Boss, can you look directly at the camera, please? Wow, my camera really won't focus. There we go. All right. We still do have, I think, about 2 topics to go over and talk about. MBG, you making cats. So before we move on to the next topic, I would like it if you guys could hit that like button. We're doing great. We're sitting at 230 likes. We still have over 360 people here watching, which is great to see. So I really appreciate you guys continuing to hang out with me during the stream. Hang out with me and Boss here. So hit that like button if you haven't already. Let's see if we can bump that up to 250 likes. Luna, please don't hurt yourself. She's doing that things that cats do where she's like, I think I'm going to jump from this height, but I'm not sure. Just don't hurt yourself. All right. All right. So the next topic in line is an update on the Black Myth Wukong situation. Again, apologies for the awkward situation with Boss sitting in front of the camera, but I think you guys are kind of used to it at this point. Boss, why does your ear look so massive, bro? Holy crap. So I have a report here from Push Square. Black Myth Wukong's Xbox delay isn't due to platform limitations, says Microsoft. So, the case of Black Myth Wukong's alleged Sony exclusivity is becoming curiouser and curiouser, with a spokesperson for Microsoft confirming that its indefinite delay has nothing to do with the assumed technical limitations of the Xbox Series S. Suddenly, those shadowy money hack conspiracy theories aren't looking so far-fetched. Forbes contributor Paul Tassi remains at the center of the story, and he obtained a statement from Microsoft that leaves us with more questions than answers. As we have said before, we're excited for the launch of Black Myth Wukong on the Xbox Series X and S, and are working with Game Science to bring the game to our platforms. We would prefer not to comment on the deals made by our partners with other platform holders, but we can confirm that the delay is not due to Xbox platform limitations that have been raised to us. That's the full statement from Microsoft. Paul Tassi says this statement reinforces his original reporting, which was corroborated by IGN. But they use the word poo-pooed. I'm going to stop reading from Push Square, bro. Like, they legit wrote the words poo-pooed. Poo-pooed by industry insiders. The journalist points to the part about not commenting on other platform holders' deals as proof. Black Myth Wukong's delayed release on Xbox is not technical in nature and not because of some issue with the Series S, as many have speculated, as Microsoft is now saying outright. Microsoft did not comment on any specifics of the deal between Game Science and Sony, but again, like their original statements, have pointed directly to that possibility when making the statement about a delay. So we are once again talking about the Black Myth Wukong situation because it just seems like every day, every week, there is some kind of controversy around this supposed secret exclusivity deal. Hold on. Got fur everywhere. So what's a little awkward here, well, actually, this entire situation is incredibly awkward. Okay, so basically, this is what's out there publicly right now. The game is out on PS5 and it's out on PC. It is not out on the Xbox consoles. The game was originally announced for the Xbox consoles. There is an official update from Game Science where they say that the game has been delayed on those consoles and they're working to get it on those consoles. So they straight up imply that it's just not optimized for those consoles and they need more time. Well, actually, that's just basically what they said. And since then, Sony has been accused multiple times of having some kind of secret exclusivity deal, to which Sony has said nothing about. Game Science has said nothing about. Neither Game Science nor Sony have acknowledged any of this, except for the fact that the game has been delayed on the Xbox. And multiple accusations have been made that it's because of the Series S. And what's very strange about this situation in particular to me is that it seems abundantly clear that the source of the accusations here of a secret exclusivity deal, the source, it's not Paul. Paul Tassi's the one who is like putting it out there, but it's pretty clear that the source is Microsoft. Microsoft is the one claiming this. And now they've taken it up a notch where they've even come out and said that it's not the Series S version. It's not due to a technical reason. And so I'm just like at a point. Dark Horse, you're saying, why are people willingly ignoring credible people because of Sony? Well, I don't think it's that people are willingly ignoring. It's that there's basically a micro civil war with insiders right now, where like literally half of the insiders, like people like Jeff Grubb and others, are saying that, yeah, there is no exclusivity deal. Then you have the other half where you have like Paul Tassi and IGN saying like, no, there is. And now Microsoft is chiming in and they're not saying there's a deal. See, again, I want to emphasize Microsoft did not say there is a deal. Let's read the comments one more time, or I already exited out of the... If you read the article word for word, or you read the response, I should say, word for word, They don't say there's a deal. Microsoft does not explicitly say there is a deal between Game Science and a partner platform or a competing platform. They say we'd prefer not to comment on the deals made by our partners with other platform holders, but we can confirm that the delay is not due to Xbox platform limitations. I need people to understand that these statements are worded very explicitly. They did not say there is a deal. They say we'd prefer not to comment on deals that are made. So when we analyze this, you know what I'm starting to think? Do you know what I'm honestly starting to think? I'm starting to think maybe the developer just decided they don't want to release it on Microsoft's platform. Because this is getting very weird. People have said to me, MBG, you can't be this dense. You can't be this ignorant. You really don't see what Sony has to gain by doing a secret exclusivity deal. Sony has what they gain by not marketing this game and not touting it as an exclusive and making it known that there's a deal. What they gain is it makes the Series S look bad and it makes Xbox look bad. Again, I understand where that logic comes from, but that still doesn't make enough sense to me. Because how does that, that is so counterintuitive. Sony has more to gain from marketing an exclusive than they do from a rival platform not being able to run the game due to technical limitations. We need to understand that. Fundamentally, I'm going to say it again, Sony has more to gain by marketing a major AAA exclusive than they have to gain from a platform not being able to run it due to a technical issue. So what I guess to basically try to simplify what I'm saying, if Sony had to choose between market the game and let everybody know it's exclusive on the PlayStation console, or don't market the game and make people think it's not releasing on Xbox because of the Series S, Sony would 100% of the time choose to market the game and make it known it's an exclusive on the PlayStation console. Why would they do that? Because that's 10 times more effective at getting people to maybe go buy your console for this console exclusive game. That's why. So look, I will say it again, is it possible there is some type of back alley, shady exclusivity deal? Yes, it is possible. If I understand correctly, Sony legally does not have to disclose it. I read, I'm not saying this where I read it is accurate, but I read on a post, somebody said that technically, legally, Sony does not have to disclose it. Now, again, that's just a random person. I mean, they had a lot of upvotes, so it's one of those things where it's I think that could be misinformation that people are just upvoting, but I'm just simply saying that it is stupid. Sony would be stupid. Again, I'm not saying Sony isn't stupid sometimes, but it would be genuinely stupid to pay for an exclusivity deal to not market it. That is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard of. What did you even pay for? You're gonna pay an exorbitant amount of money to lock this game down on your console to then not tell anybody about it? It makes no sense. So, look, man, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You know why it doesn't matter? Because at the end of the day, for one reason or another, this game is not on Xbox. Microsoft says it's not because of the Series S, but they won't say why. We'd prefer not to comment on deals made. Okay, Leia, hold on. We'd prefer not to comment on deals made. It's like, well, why not? If you're willing to imply it, then what's stopping you from just saying it? Capono, you're saying it's strange you guys are still hung on this? Not really. Well, maybe. I wouldn't say it's strange. I would say it's basically what my goal with this is to end it by stating this. If Sony did pay money to Game Science to lock Black Myth Wukong down as an exclusive, who cares? Who cares? Oh, wow, look at that. Sony did the thing that they've been doing for the past 3 decades. Oh, yeah. No surprise there, man. What is more surprising, though, is that Microsoft could have paid to get Black Myth Wukong exclusively. That's what's more surprising. Microsoft, you know, the company that can afford to buy Activision Blizzard, no problem. I'm just saying, man, I'm tired of this angle being taken. Like, Microsoft is such a weak, fragile, little baby company that big old mean Sony is out here steamrolling them with their big money hat deals. Like, dude, you just paid $69 billion for ABK. You could easily afford to get Black Myth Wukong as an exclusive, but you won't. You didn't, and you won't. By the way, when it comes to Phil Spencer and his inability to strike good exclusivity deals for the platform, he just was interviewed, and there was reports on this. I don't have it up in front of me. I could bring it up. In fact, I will. PC Gamer reports Xbox boss Phil Spencer says he's made, quote, the worst game choice decisions, end quote, letting exclusives like Destiny slip through his fingers. CEOs have to make some tough decisions. Sure, mostly it's a matter of what shall I spend my 7-figure salary on this month, and how many employees should we lay off for choices that had nothing to do with them. But sometimes you have to make some executive calls that can massively impact the fortunes of the company you command. Take, for instance, Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer, who revealed at a recent PAX panel that he's made more than a couple of bad calls when it comes to signing games for Xbox. Phil Spencer says he's made some of the, quote, worst game choice decisions, end quote, during his tenure at the company. For instance, he passed on picking both Guitar Hero and Destiny as Xbox exclusives. Quote, the team came down to Redmond, and the founder of Harmonix, Alex, I can't pronounce his last name, pitches a game where they're actually going to make plastic guitars and they're going to plug into consoles, and then they're going to sell tracks where you're going to play Simon on this guitar, end quote. Clearly a doomed venture. I'm like, really? Do we really think that's going to work? Spencer remembers thinking before he'd passed on signing the game to Xbox. Of course, he went on to spawn the mega successful Guitar Hero series with the first entry on PS2. Destiny was a similar story. The game's Xbox preview builds didn't really click with me, said Spencer. I'm not a big PvP player, and I was a little worried that I was going to get thrown into a PvP world, and it turns out that's not what it was at all. So, you know, I'm just sitting here saying, man, like, this idea, this notion that we are going to attempt to paint Sony as the bad guy for doing their job competently, potentially, because again, as of right now, there is no confirmation that there's an exclusivity deal. But let's say there is a secret exclusivity deal and Sony wrote these guys a big check to make sure it only launches on our console. Why are we going to dogpile on Sony for doing their job competently while the competing platform CEO literally just came out and said, yeah, I'm pretty bad at my job and I've made some huge mistakes when it comes to missing out on exclusivity deals? Like, this is where I just think people are revealing just how ridiculous and clownish they are these days on the internet. Where, yeah, guess what? These platform holders, they care about striking exclusivity deals and having games only on their console. Why? Because they want to sell consoles. This is not a new concept. This has literally been there from day one, not just for Sony, for Nintendo, and for Microsoft as well. Microsoft decides we're going to pass on signing Guitar Hero as an exclusive. So what do? They miss out on the first Guitar Hero, and it goes to PlayStation 2, and it's a mega success. I don't understand how people can sit here and try to fault Sony. Even if there was an exclusivity deal, what is Sony doing wrong? What are they doing wrong? They're the bad guys because they're still trying to keep games off of Xbox. You think Xbox would be giving Sony their games if they sold 60 million Xbox Series X consoles right now? Is that what you think? That's not how it works. If Xbox was selling consoles at the rate at which, well, honestly, if Xbox was selling consoles the rate at which Sony was selling PS5s, the Activision Blizzard deal probably would have never happened. I mean, it changes the entire trajectory of the Xbox brand. So listen, all I'm trying to say here is that this back and forth bickering between the insiders and between Microsoft refusing to just say what the situation is, like definitively. Microsoft, is there a deal or not? Yes or no? They won't answer that question. This bickering back and forth in the name of trying to make it seem like Black Myth Wukong is being like locked up on PlayStation. It's ridiculous. And I think people just need to wake up and realize that just because Microsoft is failing to sell video game consoles does not mean Sony is going to stop signing exclusivity deals. That's not how this works. There is still competition at the end of the day. And that competition comes in the purest form of Microsoft still has an Xbox storefront. They still have an Xbox console on the market that can and will be bought by some people. So because of that, we still need to make sure we're doing everything we can to get as many games on our platform, and maybe our platform only, to entice as many people as possible to buy our console and invest in our platform and our storefront. Dark Horse, you're saying this has nothing to do with selling video game consoles. Dark Horse, I would genuinely like you to explain, because I don't think that's true. I think that's exactly what this has to do with. I mean, look, man, I understand that there are groups of people on the internet that absolutely despise exclusivity all of a sudden, or maybe they always have, but because one of these companies has failed and exclusives no longer work for them, that now that means the other two successful companies in the console space, in the console market, should stop caring about exclusives as well. That's not how it works. I don't know what fantasy world people are living in, man. Can it work that way? It can, but it requires Sony to fail in the console space, and it requires Nintendo to begin to fail in the console space. It requires these companies to struggle to sell hardware, and that's not happening. So because that's not happening, you're going to continue to see both Sony and Nintendo make timed exclusivity deals for their consoles. Again, it is bizarre to me that people would rather point the finger at Sony and say, Sony, what the F, bro? When they should be pointing the finger at Phil, asking Phil, why couldn't you get this game as a timed exclusive or on Game Pass? Why couldn't you do it, Phil? Why? Well, because Phil got you Call of Duty on Game Pass. Isn't that enough? He paid $69 billion to make that happen. Shouldn't that be enough? It just turns out that Phil Spencer paying $69 billion to get Call of Duty on Game Pass was never a guarantee that Sony would stop signing exclusivity deals. It's just a weird, bizarre situation, in my opinion, that people are arguing about with one another. You know, it's just so strange to see these insiders kind of, you know, again, having this kind of civil war or something. MBG, how do you explain Phil Spencer saying they currently have more console users than ever before? I'm pretty sure Phil just lies. Look, I know how that sounds, and I'm not saying that in like some kind of Phil's a liar, I hate that guy. No, I'm just saying he's a top board executive at Microsoft. He lies. Sony lies. They all lie. It reminds me of the time when he was asked about Game Pass, and he just said, yeah, Game Pass is profitable. And it's like painfully obvious, like, no, it's not. And he didn't explain. He didn't elaborate. He just made that statement. And you know why he made that statement? Because he knew that that statement would make headlines. And that's all that matters. We're talking about a multi-trillion-dollar corporation. They lie. And they lie because they need to control the narrative. And the reason why they need to control the narrative is because they can. They have the power to do that. So if they have the power to do it, they're going to do it. Sony lies too. Dude, I just pointed out yesterday, Herman straight up lied about Firewalk, bro. Herman straight up lied to our faces. Be like, I think you guys are going to love. Well, I guess I'm not, maybe it's not a lie, but it's like, Jesus, man. Herman's out here being like, wait till you see that Concord, guys. You're going to love it. It's like, are we though, Herman? Are we? Are you sure? You really sure? It's a little bit different, but I'm just saying Jim Ryan lied a couple times. They all lie, dude. They all lie. So when it comes to, here's what I'll say. When Phil Spencer was told to say that, he was clearly told, like, you got to make sure you mention the fact that we have the most amount of console players ever. Truthfully, what he's probably referring to, if I had to guess, he's probably referring to the combined sales of the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X and S, and the amount of people who log into Xbox Live through all of those consoles. That entire family, you're talking about the Xbox One, the Xbox One X, the Xbox Series S, and the Xbox Series X. That's 4 consoles over 2 generations, probably for a total of anywhere between 70 to 80 million users. And so, yeah, like on the most technical level, he's probably not lying. Where it's like, oh, okay, I guess that's true. Just like on the most technical level, when a bunch of certain variables are, conveniently inserted into the equation, oh, I guess Game Pass is profitable then. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that it's one of these things where people need to, like, look, man, people need to stop pretending that these executives are not just fucking PR machines lying through their teeth. They are. That goes for Sony. That goes for Microsoft. It's the reality. I don't make it that way. If it was up to me, they would all tell the brutal truth. I mean, the brutal truth. It wouldn't sound pretty because the brutal truth isn't pretty. But I'm not in charge. Doolin, I'm going to read your super chat in just a moment. Dark Horse says, MBG, so my reasoning for me saying there should not be a reason why we doubt what these reporters are saying at this moment is because it's been backed by reliable sources and people that generally, well, I guess you're saying so that are generally well. See, I can tell I'm gonna end up getting roped into something here. Listen, you can believe who you want, and it is what it is. Like it's not going to cause any harm. Believe who you want, but what I need people to not do, or what I think would be wise for people to not do, is pretend to be surprised if Sony struck an exclusivity deal. It's fine if people want to be like, well, why did they hide it? I will admit, to me, that's even I would ask, why would you hide it? Not because it's like, you're bad, Sony, you're mean, Sony, how are you going to do that to Xbox? No, I would ask why you're hiding it, because it's like, where's the logic in that? That is only hurting you. Like, it doesn't make any sense. My question as to why they would hide it is not to paint Sony as a bad guy. It's to understand the method to the madness. And that's what bothers me, is that people they're getting so, I'm starting to get caught up in it now, where they're getting so caught up in, and Microsoft knows, this is why Microsoft keeps answering, and they keep basically giving the same response, because they know it's going to keep getting people talking, and it's going to get eyes on the fact that Sony's keeping this game off the console. It's like, dude, why isn't Microsoft saying anything about Silent Hill? Why aren't we getting a statement from Microsoft about Silent Hill? Because that's a game that straight up, it's in everybody's face. It's literally in your face. We paid to keep this motherfucking game off of Xbox. Boom. And like, nobody cares. Like, dude, nobody's saying a word. It's just weird to me that, like, again, the weirdness comes from, why is it being hidden when every other exclusivity deal was not hidden? Bigger exclusivity deals were not hidden. Steranko, you're saying, I think that's the point. Yeah, you're right. That is the point. I answered my own question, or you answered the question for me. But I don't know, man. It's just, it's frustrating to see just the merry-go-round, when the outcome is the same either way. I guess what this really, what I think this really comes down to? It really comes down to, so is Sony really the bad guy? Like, is Sony really that bad? And it's like, yes, of course they are. Like, is that the question? Like, I need to know, is that the question we need answered today? Is Sony a bad guy? Yes. Like, how is that even still a question? Sony wants to destroy Xbox and have them in the dirt. Are you kidding me? Why are we pretending that that's not the goal here? That's always been the goal. Why do you think Sony tried to, they paid to keep Final Fantasy off of Xbox? Sony has struck every exclusivity deal that Sony has struck is to hurt Xbox and better their PlayStation sales. It's a 1-2 punch. Every single one. They're not here to be the good guy for the other platform. They're not here to help Microsoft. They're not here to help the Xbox console do better. They're here to kill it. That was their goal from the beginning. Just like Microsoft's goal when they entered the market was, we want to destroy PlayStation. That's called competition. And what Microsoft is trying to do right now is basically get you to question, why is Sony being so cutthroat to the competition? That's just mean. That's just wrong. No, that's fucking reality. That's business reality. You're talking about the same company who basically came out in February when Helldivers 2 came out. Phil Spencer was like, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but he was basically complaining, like, why isn't Sony putting Helldivers on Xbox? Maybe they will. I don't think they will. But, dude, probably because they hate you. They're probably laughing at you, dude. You're giving them your games, and they know that they don't have to give you anything. They know you're a corporation, Microsoft. That's why. And they know the name of the game is to win at any cost and to kill the competition. That's the name of the game at a corporate level. Everyone should know this. And it's comical to me. It's comical that Microsoft continues to pretend that that's not the name of the game, even though Microsoft is an expert in the field. Microsoft knows this better than anybody, but they've gotten so good at it that they now know how to cause mass confusion with people, where it's like, it's the same exact reason why you saw people walking away from that February event, the business update, and they're like, it's just going to be 4 games. It's like, but did he say that? Yeah. Yeah, you're just coping, bro. You're not getting other games. It's just 4 games. But did he say that? Yeah. Are you sure? Yeah. Go listen closer. Did he really say that? You sure? Oh no. It turns out that 6 months later, when it is more than 4 games, well, technically, yeah, of course. It's always about the technicalities. You ever notice that? It's always about the technicalities. You're dealing with corporate level entities here, man, that know how to slice and dice the regular people, the regular sheep that are all across the internet. They know how to work PR like a puppet. Like, people need to realize this. I'm basically going on a separate tangent here that has nothing to do with the original topic, but Nintendo doesn't give an F about what happens to Xbox or Sony. Doolin, I'm going to read your super chat, man. I apologize for keeping you waiting. That was very rude of me. I'm just going on my insane rant here as I'm keeping you waiting. Doolin, thank you so much for the super chat. You're saying personal prediction for Astrobot's Metacritic score 90 to 91. Yes, I'm telling you, I've seen enough of it. I can't look at it anymore. I just want to play it so badly. It looks absolutely stunning. 3D game. I love it. Never been so hyped since Marvel Spider-Man 2. Dude, the hype for Astrobot is real. I'm actually really looking forward to tomorrow's stream because tomorrow we're going to be covering the Astrobot reviews. And I'll be honest with you, man. As I've said, I've already made my decision that I'm buying Astrobot and I'm platinuming that game. And I'm going to probably enjoy every moment of it. But I'm just very curious to see what the reviewers have to say and I want to know what the pros and cons are that are listed for this game. And I am curious to see what Metacritic level it comes in at because from what I can tell, there's a lot of positivity surrounding it. And I'm just curious to see if the critical reception reflects that. That's what I want to see. So I'm right there with you, Doolin. The hype is real. We need a game like Astrobot right now. I do think so. We need that game right now. It's Beast Mode saying you're working on getting the platinum for Playroom. Yeah, a lot of people are doing that right now. It's a good time to go back to Astro's Playroom to prepare for Astrobot. I did get the platinum a while ago, but I do need to boot up Astro's Playroom to play through one of the other levels to get the last secret bot. I have all 3. Or I have 3 of the 4, and I need to get all 4. So, Doolin, I love the positivity, man. I love the energy. It's what we need right now. I do feel bad. I didn't really mean to go on that much of a tangent. I know how it sounds, and I know how people paint me, and I get it. I know. Xbox, bad. It's not about Xbox, though. It's just, truthfully, it's not Microsoft. I'm going to be honest. I just want to clarify everything I've said. Not that it matters to the people on the outside who just like to hear what they want to hear, but I want to clarify that it's not Microsoft and it's not Xbox. Okay, they're just doing what they're supposed to do. Again, they're a multi-trillion-dollar corporation. They know the name of the game, and they're going to play the game. They're going to play every note. That's what they do. That's what they're supposed to do. I'm not going to fault them for doing their jobs, but the real frustration just comes from the lack of critical thinking in the... Actually, at this point, I just have to fault myself. I was going to say the lack of critical thinking from people on the internet, but then it's like, dude, it's the internet. What do you expect? So, to wrap up this topic as best I can, and to summarize, or just give you the gist, it doesn't matter if there's an exclusivity deal or not, and it doesn't matter if it's a secret exclusivity deal or not. It doesn't matter. Microsoft has the power. They had the power to make sure this game came to their platform. They had that power. And they didn't. They didn't do anything about it. Just like Sony had the power if they wanted to lock down an exclusivity deal. Sony has that power. They have that power for any game if they're willing to pay the price, if they feel like it's worth it. I'm not going to fault Sony for securing games for their platform. And I'm not going to care if they want to keep it a secret. I think it's bizarre if they want to keep it a secret. I think it makes no sense if they want to keep it a secret. And frankly, I think it just hurts them. But at the end of the day, as somebody who plays on PlayStation, I don't care. If they say, here's a game, you can play it now, cool. And if I find out, oh, it's not on Xbox, well, that's interesting. I wonder why. But I'm not going to wonder that much. Chances are I'm just going to go play the game. This is a Microsoft problem. That's the reality. That's what I'm trying to say. The Black Myth Wukong situation is a Microsoft problem, not a Sony problem. And people need to wake up and realize that. They need to be turning to Microsoft and asking, why is this game not on your platform? Can you give us a direct answer as to why? Because you know what? The Black Myth Wukong team did give you a direct answer. They said they're still optimizing the game and they're still working on it. And they'll give us an update once it's ready. So, weird times with this stuff going on, man. Weird times, weird situations, people behaving very strangely. Like I said, believe who you want. But there's nothing surprising here. As far as I'm concerned, anyway. Anyway. That wraps up that topic. I'm sure we have, yeah, okay, yeah. I was going to say, I'm sure we have one more topic to discuss, and we do. For a second, it wasn't loading, though, but we actually need to talk about the Switch 2, because we have news about this upcoming console reveal. Hold on, I have to let Leia out, because she's, like, really annoyed. All right, so we have a couple of interesting things. Regarding the Nintendo Switch 2. First, I have a report here from WCCF Tech. It says the Nintendo Switch 2 may finally get revealed this month. Rumor. The initial reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2 console could be happening this month, according to rumors circulating online. GamesIndustry.biz's Christopher Dring revealed earlier today on X that he's heard industry whispers on the next Nintendo console to indicate that something related to it is actually happening this month. While a full reveal is unlikely, there's a good chance that the console will at least be formally announced, possibly with its official name. So this obviously garnered a decent amount of attention. But then we have Andy Robinson of VGC, another, I think relatively well-established insider. He said that here on X, he says, seems that a bunch of press have heard this, but I still wouldn't bet my house on it. And so, he's confirming that there's basically a lot of whispers going around right now between all different press that Nintendo is getting ready to announce something related to the Switch 2 this month. But I did come across this as well on the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit, where it says here, the Switch 2 has seemingly entered mass production due to Hosiden. Hosiden Graphics. I don't know if that's how you say that. I feel like that's how you say that, because I never heard of this before. But it says, expect September news and a March 2025 release. So, yeah, it seems like the reveal for the Switch 2 is just like kind of lurking on the horizon right now. And I actually was thinking that the Switch 2 was going to be like a later or like a mid to late 2025 release, but now there seems to be rumors and even just certain proof here that the Switch 2 is now beginning to enter mass production. What are we thinking, guys? I feel like this is kind of sneaking up on me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I'm interested in the Switch 2. I'm going to be paying very close attention. I've told you guys before that I haven't really gotten into Nintendo for a very long time. You know, it's been a long time since I've gotten into Nintendo and played their games. I do, like I said, I do have a Switch, but I've only used it for like party games with friends on occasion. And outside of that, I just like haven't touched it. But the Switch 2, I don't know. I might be willing to. I mean, obviously, I have to see how Nintendo handles it. There's like just so much I don't know, along with everybody else. But I'm very curious to see what the Switch 2 ends up being, what it's end up capable of doing, and what type of games get announced for it. I mean, I guess there are some games we can expect. Miguel, you're saying you generally pay attention to everything in gaming? I see you, Fred. I see you. The GameCube was your last Nintendo console? I think, yeah, for me too. I did have a Wii, and I used it, I think, a total of like 10 times, and then I stopped. Adama the Dragoon says, can't wait for Switch 2 as long as it is backwards compatible with at least my digital library. I mean, we're expecting it to be fully backwards compatible, right? Surely it has to be. I'm expecting it to be fully backwards compatible. I would be surprised if it wasn't. GameCube was a cool console. I didn't get super into the GameCube, though, because when I had the GameCube, I was really just fully into the PlayStation 2 at the time. I remember just being so fascinated with how small the discs were for the GameCube. I'm like, well, this is weird. Huh. Fred, you're saying I bought the wife a Switch and played maybe 3 games myself, but that's it. Wife has not touched it in a long while herself. Yeah, Mrs. MBG, she loves Nintendo still. She's not like a Nintendo fangirl or anything like that. She's not that into it, but she does like Nintendo, and she's played quite a bit of Switch this generation. I think she played the Pokemon game, she played Animal Crossing, and I think a couple of others. But she's very excited to hear about the Switch too, and yeah, that'll be interesting. See how she reacts to the reveal and what she thinks of it. Miguel, you're saying MBG, another studio, just announced they delayed their game due to it needing further optimization on the Series S. Could you where did you hear this news, Miguel? Which game are you referring to? Wii Bowling was goated. I remember playing Wii Bowling. Man, the amount of TVs that were destroyed over that game, though. Am I right? You haven't had a Nintendo console since the original NES? Wow. That's interesting, Taicho. Switch 2, 200 million sold. Book it. Oh, Miguel. Okay, yeah. We did talk about that. That's what I was wondering if you were referring to the other game. Oh, you're talking about Dune Awakening. Yeah, that's true. There was a developer who just straight up said that, yeah, it's going to take time and it's going to be difficult to optimize that game for the Series S. But what's interesting is I think that's also delaying the PS5 version a little bit, because I think they're planning on releasing the PS5 Series X and S version at the same time, as far as I'm aware. I mean, maybe they would be willing to delay the Series S version if need be, if the PS5 version was done, but yeah, they did just straight up come out and say that. Yeah, I think Resident Evil 4 being a GameCube exclusive is what made me ask my parents for a GameCube. Because I think prior to that, I didn't have much interest. The Nintendo console before the GameCube was the N64, right? Yeah. I had an N64, and it's funny because, like, even as a young kid, man, I did like Nintendo games, but they just didn't, I don't know, man, they didn't really grab me. The only Nintendo games that really made me addicted to Nintendo was the Pokemon games. But outside of that, any Mario game, like I enjoyed them, but even when it was like between the N64 and the PlayStation 1, I always preferred the PlayStation 1. Yeah, is anybody... I know this is a really random thing I'm about to say, but it's just a thought. It's just like a core memory that just popped in my head. Anybody remember that Simpsons wrestling game on the PlayStation 1? I think it was just called The Simpsons Wrestling. Anybody here remember that? I remember being pretty impressed with that game as a kid. Like, damn, this is pretty fun. I don't know why that popped in my head, though. Pushing Polygon says no. Steve says he still has it. Yeah, I remember The Simpsons Hit and Run. That was a great game. I played a lot of different Simpsons games. Well, when it comes to the Switch 2, I figured I would just let you guys know that, you know, the rumors are heating up, and there seems to be evidence that we're going to be hearing about this console very soon. So I probably will cover it on the channel. I don't know if I don't know how dedicated I will be to that coverage, but in the same way that I'm covering the rumors here, you can expect it to show up in some streams or some videos. Josh, you're saying you had a PS1 but not a PS2? Oh, wow. I recall that as well. I never played it. The MTV Celebrity Fighting Games. Yeah, I remember that show. Well, guys, here's what we'll do. Okay, so we're like 3 hours and 16 minutes into the stream. I'll make this like a last call. You know, this is something we do towards the end of every stream. Basically like a 5-minute warning or so, where if you want to do any more fan funding, if you want to drop any more member gifts, or if you want to become a member, or if you want to drop any more super chats or direct donations, now is the time to do it before we wrap up the stream. I try to make sure to do this at the end of streams just to let everybody know. So if they had any plans to do so, because I've had some incidents in the past where as soon as I end the stream, I get like somebody dropped like a $50 super chat and I completely missed it, you know, because the stream ended. They were a little bit behind. So this will be the last call before we wrap this up, because I did get through all the topics here. Celebrity Deathmatch. Yeah, I think that's what it was. Pretty sure that's what it was called. And Kareem Ali with a super chat says, "Hi BG, did you see the Minecraft trailer? It was so bad. I actually didn't watch it. I saw like a couple of images. Maybe I could bring... I'm not going to like react to it or anything. Like, I'm not going to bring it up on screen or play any audio. But maybe I could head over to Twitter. Yeah, I'm starting to see, though, that the topic we covered, of Hiroki Totoki saying that Sony has a lack of original IPs, Hiroki Totoki seems to be getting kind of put on blast here by the Twitter community and the PlayStation community. A lot of people being like, bro, are you serious? You guys are sitting on a treasure trove of original IP. I think what people need to understand, though, is, and I get why not everybody's going to understand this, but he's not just like, he could be referring like mostly to their movie division. He's not necessarily just talking about, you know, the PlayStation gaming side of things. I think a lot of people are missing that. But yeah, it is a weird look. It is a weird look, certainly, when you consider how much IP Sony is sitting on. Racket Raccoon says, Astrobot is going to consume my life for a while. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's going to be the case for a lot of PlayStation players. Apparently, I'm just seeing this now, IGN gave the new Joker movie a 5 out of 10 rating, if anybody is interested. And I have a, I don't follow Hugh Jackman on Twitter, but here he is. He says, I am grateful, and he's flexing in the mirror, and he is ripped. Alrighty then. Wasn't expecting that to show up on my feed, but here we are. All right, so I'm looking at the Minecraft movie trailer now. Again, I'm not playing any audio or anything. It's 1 minute and 18 seconds. I'm watching it now. Oh, okay. Wow. Oh my God, this looks cursed. Oh, that sheep though. Oh, this looks not good. I mean, it's going to do great. You know, it's Minecraft. People are going to obviously go and watch it. Kids are going to love it, but okay, I'm going to stop watching. Yeah, I'm good. Oh my Lord. I don't know what I was expecting. I'll be honest with you, man. I don't know what I was expecting, but that did not look very good to me. Something about it looks very disturbing and off-putting. I can't quite put my finger on what it is. Tom Holland is Jack Wen. Yeah. All right, guys. I think that's going to wrap this stream up today, though. Covered all the topics. Said everything I had to say. I thought it was a good stream. I enjoyed it. Appreciate you guys keeping me company, listening. I want to make sure I give a very special thank you and shout out, though, to anybody who dropped any membership gifts. Very much appreciate that. To all of my channel members, thank you guys. Also want to make sure I give a shout out to anybody who dropped any super chats, any type of fan funding whatsoever, super chats, direct donations. This channel is completely sponsor free. I'm sure you've noticed that. And the reason why that's able to occur is because you guys make that possible, okay? You guys, those of you who are supporting directly, you're the sponsors of the channel. You make this content possible, and you keep this community growing. So thank you for that. It means a lot. And I also want to make sure to give a special shout out to Devil Shooter. He does the timestamps for the streams, and he does a great job. Does a great service to the community. So Devil Shooter, I see you in the chat, man. Thank you so much for what you do. If you guys see him in the comments, give him some thanks. I know he really appreciates it, and he does a great job. So thank you for what you do, man. And yeah, I think that does it. That wraps up the stream today. We should have another stream coming tomorrow, same time, 12 p.m. Eastern. And tomorrow, well, I don't know when exactly the Astrobot reviews, like I don't know what time they drop, but I'm assuming the main topic of discussion tomorrow, we should have a couple of different topics, but the main topic will certainly be about the Astrobot reviews. We're probably going to mostly talk about Astrobot tomorrow. And other than that, I'm thinking about doing a member stream on Friday, potentially. A member stream for Astrobot. I'll think about that. You won't be there. Crazy spoilers. Hopefully not. But all right, guys, that does it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for tuning in. My only other request as you're filing out is please hit that like button. It helps the streams. And I will catch you guys in the next stream tomorrow. So until then, take care, everyone.